think all the racetracks from here on out favor all three drivers running for the points right now, so we need to do good at each racetrack.
No battlefield showed the new ruling order better than revered Darlington. 85's Robin Hood, Bill Elliott, was out jousting the Renaissance trio when his flashing sword slipped from his grasp. The scoundrel with the beguiling smile and swashbuckling spirit pillaged another one, Tim Richmond. He and his teammate Jeff Bodine have ridden the fastest steeds this year, and Tim has produced the most winning battle, 6. This one particularly cherished by his crew chief, Harry Hyde. Now Richmond sees something else just a little mightier than the sword at the Speedway.
It's not so much what happens at the Speedway. I don't think there's factors there that are good and bad, but it's more what happens up here on the way to and from the racetrack.
The usual late campaign by Darrell Waltrip has been expected. A month ago, it seemed to begin again, winning at Bristol, Tennessee. But the offensive has suffered surprising retreats, too. One step forward, a step backwards. He sees this track, the home track of his car owner, Junior Johnson, crucial to his personal crusade.
Bristol and Wilkesboro, the points, the pressure of the point chase is nothing compared to the pressure of having to win this race.
So back to North Wilkesboro, with sabers on sheaths and a realistic possible gain of 100 points for any one driver. Richmond behind by 136, Waltrip 159. Whenever you come to North Wilkesboro, it's unlike any other racetrack in the world. There's a calmness here, you're isolated, and there seems to be a confidence ringing in the hills. But on race day, a very loud and enthusiastic crowd. The biggest story this weekend probably has been the weather. The temperature already here before the start of the race is 90 degrees, and the humidity has risen to over 80. You add those two things together, and you come up with two very big words. Very hot. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Larry Newper, and joining me up in the ESPN broadcast booth today, as he has so many times, is one of the finest active racing drivers involved in television broadcasting today, Benny Parsons. Benny, we get down to this point of a NASCAR season, and you talk about points, but this year it's different. I keep getting all these confusing, conflicting signals.
It is confusing. We had a race on ESPN in Bristol, Tennessee. Darrell Waltrip won the race. It was about 5 races ago. When I left the racetrack, I said, well, another point championship going to Darrell Waltrip. We went to Southern 500 in Darlington and then to Richmond, Virginia. Tim Richmond won both those races. And I had to rethink my position. I said, well, maybe Tim Richmond can be the next Winter Cup champion. But here we are in North Wilkesboro 3 races later, and Dale Earnhardt still has the same lead on Waltrip and Richmond that he had.
We've had an interesting thing happen this weekend in North Wilkesboro. This weekend kind of represents the way the entire season has gone. Again, a lot of surprises and a lot of things we probably didn't expect.
You know, all the way up here to the broadcast booth, so many people in the stands stopped me and said, who's going to win the race? And I had to say, I have no idea, and I really don't know. A couple of guys to look for, Ricky Rudd, been running extremely well the last 3 or 4 races, and he finished second here in the spring. Rusty Wallace, a winner last week in Martinsville, Virginia. And a guy who is so shocked is on the outside pole, Bill Elliott, who normally does poorly on the short track.
Never on a short track. Well, down in the pits will be Dick Berggren, the editor of Stock Car Racing magazine. And he right now is in the pit area of one of those eyebrow raisers of 1986.
You're right, Larry. Here's another surprise. We've got a rookie starting in 6th position today. Alan Kulwicki has beaten out such people as Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, and Neil Bonnet on the grid. In a way, it's not really a surprise because he's had a fabulous season. This young rookie, however, is doing more with less than just about anybody on the circuit. Most people have a lot of engines. You've only got 2. Most people have 6 or 7 cars. You've only got 1. But you're in a tight points battle. So how will you run the race? To finish? To win? What are you going to do, Alan?
Well, basically to finish the race. The key on the start is going to be to get to the inside and fall in line as soon as possible. And then experience really sort of dictates how you run the race. We're going to try as hard as we can to stay up front this race, but we're a little conservative on the gear ratio here, and if the track gets slicker, I think we'll be in better shape later in the race. Early in the race, I think the Chevrolets might pull us off the corners just a little bit, but basically we're going to try to stay near the front or on the lead lap as long as we can and, you know, try a little extra harder later in the race.
That's the story from the 6th position. Larry?
The best career start for this former star from the north. Today's NASCAR Winston Cup race is being brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? And by Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. And by Exxon, quality you can count on. Well, that sets the scene for you here at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. A guy who's been on the pole many times in back at North Wilkesboro, where the starting field is beginning to roll away en route to their first of what we anticipate 2 pace laps. Here is the starting grid. Starting on the pole, originally from Ohio, is Tim Richmond in the Folgers Coffee Chevrolet. This is personally his 5th time on the pole, the 19th time in the front row for his team. On the outside front row is Bill Elliott from Dawsonville, Georgia, the Coors Ford. This is the 2nd time he started from the outside pole on a short track. Row number 2, originally from Chemung, New York, Jeff Woodine, the Levi Garrett Chevrolet. He's had 8 poles in 1986, and he is flanked by Darrell Waltrip, once the master of this track, in the Budweiser Chevrolet. Row number 3, the winner last week was Rusty Wallace, the Alugard Pontiac in car number 27, and he is flanked by Alan Kawicki, the young rookie we've just talked to, the Quincy's Family Steakhouse, number 35. 7th position, Ricky Rudd, the Motocraft Ford, the 3rd Ford in the top 10. And on the outside, car number 8, Bobby Hillen Jr. in the Miller American Buick. Now here is the rest of the starting grid. It will happen very quickly. We anticipate green next time. 5th row, Mike Waltrip and Harry Gant. Row number 6, Morgan Shepherd, Neil Bonnet. The 7th row, 13th and 14th position. Number 44, Terry Labonte, former national champ, and Dale Earnhardt leading this year's standing. The 8th row, 71, Dave Marcus, the man out of Wisconsin, and 22, Bobby Allison, winner at Talladega earlier this year. The 9th row, Tommy Ellis and Eddie Birchwell. In row number 10, the 21st and 22nd position, Richard Petty and Ken Schrader. In row number 11, Buddy Arrington, a guy who one time campaigned a Chrysler, and Joe Ruttman, disappointed in his qualifying run. Followed by Trevor Boyd, Kyle Petty, then Jimmy Means and D.K. Ulrich, Joe Milliken, yes, he's returned, Chet Phillip out of Texas, Brent Elliott, and J.D. McDuffie. Anticipating green this time. Benny, this is a tough one to call.
It is a tough one to call. As I said, as we talked about the opening of the show, so many conflicting results coming out of here.
Green flags in the Holly Farms 400 of September 1986 is underway. Not so surprising, Tim Richmond grabs the early lead. There's some quick ride that has been laid down in 3 and 4. Shouldn't cause any difficulty. The early rundown, which doesn't mean anything. It's Richmond, Elliott, Waltrip, a little bit of distance to Bodine, Wallace, Rudd, Kowicki hangs in there. Michael Waltrip is next. Morgan Shepherd, side by side, Labonte and Bobby Hillen, Dale Earnhardt, Dave Marcus, Harry Gant, and Neil Bonnet, Bobby Allison, Tommy Ellis, Joe Ruttman, however far you want to go.
Look at Bill Elliott giving Tim Richmond the pole sitter heavy heat early on in the race. Bill Elliott, last week at Martinsville, Virginia, ran very poorly on a short racetrack. Made up their mind when they came to North Wilkesboro they were going to do better. There's the proof.
They're rapidly approaching already Eddie Birchwell. Birchwell got a bad start.
Now, what happened, Eddie, was he had a
Side by side for the lead. There goes Elliott to the inside. Bill Elliott is moving on a short track.
I know Harry Mellon is watching this, the owner of Bill's car, and is feeling very good up in Jackson, Michigan.
Benny, I know he has qualified on the outside pole before in a short track. I haven't seen every one of the Winston Cup races. I see about a third of them a year. Is this his best performance ever in a short track? I think so.
Well, he did run very well at the Nashville Speedway when we were going over there, but we haven't been to Nashville in a couple of years. And the short racetracks remaining on the schedule, Bill Elliott has not been doing that well.
Bill Elliott, who was the fastest qualifier yesterday to have that unusual format for qualifying, is actually an average of 2 days of time as we look at Alan Kawicki being challenged by Morgan Shepherd. Kawicki is holding fast in 7th. Elliott yesterday, the second day of qualifying, was actually faster than everybody, including Richmond, but the 2-day average gave the position to pole to Tim.
Morgan Shepherd in the 75. Been driving that car since the Southern 500, and the car has been right up front. So I think we're going to see Morgan get by and go right on the front. Very, very good race car driver, particularly on the shorter racetrack.
You heard Alan Kawicki tell you that he was basically geared for a slipperier racetrack, which will happen about lap 200 probably of the 400 schedule.
There goes Morgan Shepherd. Down in the corner, they made some slight contact, which got Kawicki sideways. There's Earnhardt, Terry Labonte. They're all going.
It's going to be tough to get back in line.
It's going to be very tough to get back in.
Good turn. Good turn by Kawicki, but not quite enough. Labonte, he has rapidly become a veteran. He was new to this circuit about 5 years ago, but I'll tell you, nobody learned quicker than the Texan Terry Labonte.
There they touch coming off the fourth corner. Terry Labonte trying to get by Kawicki. Meanwhile, back for the lead, Larry. Tim Richmond has closed up on Bill Elliott and Darrell Waltrip right on their back bumper.
You know, Bill Elliott is not used to this position on a short track, leading so early in the race. I would imagine, we talked about those conflicting signals, Benny. He's probably searching a little bit. Yellow flag.
Spin, Bobby Allison coming off the fourth corner.
No major contact. Benny, I don't even think he touched the wall or another car.
No, I'm sure he didn't. There comes Brent Elliott. If he gets by, I think Bobby will be safe. Brent gets by.
Here comes
Elliott's trying to lap him
around. It's going to be close. Bobby saves it. Elliott saw what was going on, and to his credit, he thought, oh, I get a chance to get one of the contenders one lap down early and easy, but it didn't work out.
Didn't work out. There was a car, Joe Milliken, looks like he had an engine problem just a moment ago, came through the third and fourth corner smoking, and then just a few seconds later, Bobby Allison spun out. There's Kyle Petty in the pits. The hood goes up on that automobile.
Kyle Petty, who's had a pretty good year on the short track, Benny, particularly and recently, but we're caution here for a harmless spin by Bobby Allison coming off of turn number 4. There's one of those surprises up front. Bill Elliott is leading here at North Wilkes. We are under caution after just 14 laps here at North Wilkesboro Speedway, where Bill Elliott has taken the lead. Tim Richmond runs second. We're going to take this brief pause here to go up north to Michigan, where the Indy cars are performing at Michigan International this weekend.
We welcome you to Michigan International Speedway, where the Pepsi-Cola 250 IndyCar race is underway. We are under a caution period because of debris on the racetrack. This is our second caution period. The first one brought out by Roberto Guerrero, who stalled on the racetrack. There are the standings. Bobby Rahal, the leader. Fittipaldi is second. Mario Andretti is third. Michael Andretti is in fourth position. And Ari Leyendijk is running in fifth. An outstanding performance by Leyendijk, who started this race in 20th. There's the leader, Bobby Rahal. For those of you now going back to North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, here are Larry Nuber and Benny Parsons.
Thank you, Robert. Roberto Guerrero had such a fine qualifying run this weekend, Benny. He qualified number 2 on that super fast 2-mile high-banked oval. Scott Brayton, another one of the surprise top 6 qualifiers, and Dennis Firestone. Here at North Wilkes, things are a little calm right now. While all that was going on, Harry Gant had a minor adventure, and Dick Bergen is down in the pit area and has been trying to assess what's been going on here in these heavy-duty caution flag laps in the early stages, Dick.
Well, we've had a couple of cars into the pits already. One of them was Harry Gant. They looked the car over, put a little adjustment in it, and the same exact thing was done here in Bobby Allison's pit. They didn't really change anything. They just kind of looked both of those cars over. Meanwhile, Eddie Burchwell has made several trips into the pits, and for very good reason. He had made an engine change at the last possible hour this morning, and apparently things are not quite all right with that car. They did have to go with a much smaller radiator than they usually go because the radiator was damaged in the engine change. So he's going to have his problems because the temperature is already up to 96 degrees on pit road, Larry.
Dick, another guy who has made a change that normally you wouldn't expect after qualifying in the polls, Tim Richmond. Benny, they changed the engine in that car after qualifying yesterday.
Well, they've been doing unusual things this year. They've changed engines like that before. I don't really remember the racetrack, but they won that race. So they feel like they could do it and get away with it, and this year it's proven to be the case.
Anticipating green flag this time around. We're still in the very early stages here of the Winston Cup race, NASCAR style at North Carolina. Make that North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. We're going green. Ricky Rudd gets a big jump to the inside of Rusty Wallace, and Ricky Rudd looks like he's ready to commandeer 5th place, but Mr. Wallace says, no, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be quite that easy. They're the leaders, Elliott, followed by Richmond. Waltrip runs 3rd. There you see him on your screen. That's turn 3 and 4 on this 5/8 mile, half-mile racetrack coming down to complete another lap.
Bill Elliott's car working exceptionally well. I talked to them earlier this morning, and they said after Martinsville, they went home and sat down and said, hey, guys, we looked horrible. Let's fix this race car. And there is the result. Evidently, they fixed it well.
You know, another guy that we haven't really talked about today, nor have we had an opportunity to talk about all year, Benny. This is kind of a dark horse, but I was kind of interested in what I heard the crew had to say. Is Tommy Ellis. He right now is running back around 20th. He said that he was turning in laps as quick as anybody on the racetrack in yesterday's Saturday afternoon's late practice. We'll see if Tommy can parlay that into anything.
Tommy Ellis, another one of the good, very good short track drivers in Winston Cup racing. Richmond looking inside Bill Elliott. Elliott cuts him off. Nothing doing. It looks like that Bill Elliott is getting through the first and second corner very well. Richmond seems to be a little bit better up in 3 and 4.
5/8 mile banked asphalt. This track, if you've watched ESPN broadcast before, you know that they go downhill. They're going down the front stretch into the first turn. To keep the racing line, you should really hug right along the inside white line. As you go up into turn 3 and 4, like Elliott, Richmond, and Waltrip are right now, you've got a little more maneuverability. You can get a little bit off the line because of the centrifugal force will pull everybody high. And as we saw yesterday in the modified race, if there is an outside passing lane on this speedway, it's probably around the high side of 3 and 4.
Jeff Bodine back in 4th spot. We can't see him right now. That's Bill Elliott in 9, Tim Richmond in 25. But the yellow car in 4th spot right there, Jeff Bodine, experimented just a little bit with a different line, trying to find the outside to see if the outside will in fact work or not.
Trevor Boyes has taken over the number 48 car of James Hilton this weekend. He has already pulled into the pits. There is 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. And Dave Marcus moves up, and there is Tim Richmond moving to the inside of Bill Elliott. And he is not giving Elliott even a moment's rest. Richmond looks like he may have a good line this time. We'll see the tail of the tape as they go uphill down the backstretch. Richmond gets a little bit of a boost.
He's on the inside, and he's alongside Elliott going in turn 3. It's too early. He comes off and just moves up the racetrack, kind of shoulders Bill out of the way, and takes the lead going down in turn 1. Elliott now still a little bit too high. He's got to protect second spot away from Dal Waltrip, but Waltrip alongside of it. Going down the back, he's alongside Bill Elliott.
Looked like a little bit of a miscue that time, Benny. I think Bill had plenty enough room to move back down in line and not let the train go by. He just didn't take advantage of it. He thought, well, maybe I can stay outside of Tim and get something, but you don't leave that little shaft of light for somebody like Darrell Waltrip.
No, you sure don't. And this is early on in the race. There's no point in Bill Elliott really taking a chance on getting spun out this early in the race. He's probably doing the right thing, and he's moved up on the racetrack, and the car seems to be doing pretty well up there.
All right, it's Richmond, Elliott and Waltrip for second. Bodine is 4th. Wallace is a challenging 5th. Right behind is Morgan Shepherd is 6th. Shepherd has moved up a little bit from his 11th starting position. 7th is Labonte. 8th is Earnhardt, who is really charged up. Dave Marcus has just moved into 9th. There again is Waltrip on the inside of Bill Elliott as they tussle for 10th. Behind Marcus is Rudd, then Kowicki, Michael Waltrip, Neil Bonnet, Joe Ruttman, Tommy Ellis, Richard Petty, and then Ken Schrader and Bobby Hillen Jr. are side by side after that.
Darrell Waltrip got by Bill Elliott, and Bill was not able to get back down on the bottom of the racetrack. Now Jeff Bodine there trying to take away 3rd spot.
It's going to be hard pressed to get back down there because Wallace is close and Shepherd is close. Shepherd is particularly good on short tracks. And Earnhardt's right there. You suppose Dale will kind of do the gentlemanly thing, hold back, and let him get back in line.
Well, he's in line right now. Jeff Bodine went by. Bill Elliott was able to get down to the inside of the racetrack in front of Rusty Wallace.
Earnhardt has put on a very nice charge here. Earnhardt started in 14th position, and now the man who is leading the points as he has for most of the 1986 season is in 7th position. Everybody is really quite close, but Richmond is beginning to gallop away.
Jeff Bodine still trying to use that higher line than 3 and 4, higher than any other car on the racetrack right now. He's experimenting, trying to find the best way around the racetrack. As they come off the second corner, going uphill down the back straightaway, Waltrip able to keep Jeff Bodine behind him. But we see, as they go in the corner, Bodine this time stays on the bottom of the racetrack.
Tim Richmond, who has had a total of 5 poles this year, counting this weekend here at North Wilkesboro, but really where he has really shined his ability to finish in the win and the place spot after the main event. That's 1st and 2nd. He's had a few of them this year, 6 on top to be exact.
Well, the crowd is starting to settle down. They've been standing since the race began, as the green flag was waved. They've been standing. Now they're starting to sit down because they realize that there's a lot of just feeling out there. The drivers are trying to feel out how strong the other cars are, where they're going to run, where their car wants to run, and how good they are.
There is the interval between first. Here comes Richmond by putting a lap on Brett Elliott. There is second running Darrell Waltrip, and the threatening, the thrashing, the whipping away third place car of Jeff Bodine, who is really going after who we described as one time the master of North Wilkesboro, Darrell Waltrip.
At the opening of the show, Darrell Waltrip talked that the Winston Cup Championship is that's no pressure compared. Bodine on the outside, he tried to go on the outside of Darrell Waltrip. But Darrell was talking about the pressure, the Winston Cup Championship pressure is nothing like having to win at North Wilkesboro. The reason for that is that Junior Johnson, his car owner, his shop is just down the road a few miles, and if Wilkes County has a local hero, it's Junior Johnson.
You can't run on a short track without getting battle scars. Case in point, the number 43.
Richard Petty, I didn't see what... And the grill is knocked in on the car, and Dick Bergen evidently was watching the action down there and knows what happened. Dick?
All caved in. Richard Petty's hood is all caved in, Betty. And the problem with that is that it's caved in such a way that it's going to prevent the air from properly getting to the radiator. On a hot day like today, that is exactly what you do not want to have happen. Meanwhile, just up pit road, Rusty Wallace' crew is getting out as if they're ready to bring him in.
Wallace is coming in. Morgan Shepherd has pulled in.
Wallace has a flat tire. Looks like he has a flat tire. And Jeff Bodine has... Wallace goes down pit road and passes Darrell Waltrip on the outside. Very, very good move on Bodine's part.
Last week, Rusty Wallace won a race because of the efficiency of his pit crew. Right now, they are being put to task. He just went a lap down, but it's something you can't make up. Alan Kawicki has crashed in turn 4. We'll be back with details on that in just a moment. Lots going on.
The first look will move you. With revealing shapes that reveal even more about the overall design. A design that's all-encompassing, that embraces the entire line. But there's an inner design beneath the surface that can only be felt when these cars are actually driven. This is Ford today, designed to move you like never before.
Have you driven a Ford lately?
Formula One, Indy, NASCAR, IMSA. Nobody takes you inside like Auto Week. On the track, behind the scenes, with columnists who race and win. Auto Week gives you the fastest, most accurate racing coverage every week. Just days after the checkered flag drops. Nobody takes you inside street cars like Auto Week. Sports cars, classics, 4x4s, vans, performance sedans. Auto Week makes you an insider with personalities, classic cars, industry news, columnists. Now you can become an insider by calling 1-800-554-3000 to get Auto Week at the lowest price ever. Just $17.25 for 52 issues, only 33 cents a week. Save 25% off the basic rate. Call 1-800-554-3000. Operators are standing by. Start Auto Week racing to you today.
That man right there in the blue and yellow Wrangler jeans, number 3, Richard Childress' entry has just moved up to third position, and he's coming on like a steamroller. He's closing in on second. Now here's how he got it done. Look at the surge he gets off the inside of turn number 2.
He's coming off 2, and Darrell Waltrip all of a sudden just not able to get off the corners. Earnhardt getting off the corner extremely well inside Darrell Waltrip and just shoots by him like he has a rocket under the hood or something.
And right behind him, you see that orange and cream car of Dave Marcus. He is turning in a sterling performance. He has been pretty hot and late in NASCAR racing. He, too, has passed Darrell Waltrip. There is Marcus, and Marcus has moved up to 4th position after starting 15th, Benny. Marcus is one of the swiftest cars in the track. He's been following Earnhardt, and Dale really hasn't been able to shake him.
No, he hasn't. Dave Marcus doing a super job today. I talked to some of the crew last night. His owner and the sponsor, benefactor on the side of the car, Helen Ray Smith, is here this week, and she's had a birthday in the past month or so, and maybe Dave Marcus is trying to give her a trophy from North Wilkesboro as a birthday present.
Well, Marcus definitely knows this place. He still holds the official one-lap qualifying record as you continue to watch Waltrip, who seems to be keeping step with Marcus at this point as they put a lap on J.D. McDuffie. Marcus's record is 19.483. Just to give you an idea, they were qualifying in the 19.6s, 7s, and 8s up top here this weekend, but that record was set way back in April of 1981. Dave Marcus in a Chevrolet still holds the one-lap track record here at North Wilkesboro.
As we watch Dave Marcus go around the racetrack, we got a report on Bill Elliott. There's Tim Richmond. Tim Richmond still leading the race in the Folgers coffee machine. But Bill Elliott, who ran so well the opening laps of the racetrack, now is in 8th spot. And there he is, right between Terry Labonte and Ricky Rudd in 8th spot. Ricky Rudd 9th. But it's a long day.
Yeah, it is. It's Richmond, Bodine, the teammates. Earnhardt is 3rd. 4th is Marcus, as we told you. Waltrip is 5th. 6th is Terry Labonte. 7th is Elliott, I think, as well as Donald Lapp. He had to come in for that flat tire.
That's true. I'd forgotten about that.
So let's see. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is Ricky Rudd. 9th is Joe Ruttman, who's made a nice charge. Tommy Ellis is 10th. Bonnet is 11th. Petty is 12th, I believe. And Allison has been able to hold on to the lead lap as we go back up front. Bobby Allison is in 13th. Harry Gant 14th, who had a little bit of a trauma on a yellow flag lap when he ended up in the infield without losing a lap. Kenny Schrader is 15th, and by the way, just before the last break, we told you that Alan Kowicki had hit the wall. It was more of a touch, and here comes Earnhardt putting the pressure on Jeff Bodine. Kowicki had to come into the pits. He made a pit stop, lost the lap, but no significant contact.
Earnhardt running very, very well, trying to get by Jeff Bodine. Looked under him coming off turn 4 the last time. Nothing there. If Bodine goes up the racetrack just a little bit, be sure Earnhardt will try it again.
54 laps have been completed. Remember, we'll go 400, so still in the very early stages. We're just 1/8 of a way through this long and tedious, very hot afternoon. By the way, the weather is not perfect here in that there is a threat of rain. Benny and I were on the roof just before the race started. Many of you saw the beginning of the show, and we were looking back over our shoulders, and it certainly looked like there were rain clouds hung up in the mountains, just lingering there, waiting to deposit their contents on an unsuspecting crowd like those here at North Wilkes.
Jeff Bodine putting a few car lengths on Dale Earnhardt right now, and I really don't understand exactly what that's all about. Meanwhile, Dave Marcus gaining on Earnhardt. Great run for Marcus today.
Great run, and I'll tell you, Bodine is moving in a little bit on Tim Richmond. We had an opportunity to talk to Earnhardt earlier this week about the significance of the quest for Winston Cup points. The pressure has been on him most of the season.
We went to every race this year trying to win the race. Race has been number 1 on our mind, and I think that's why we've done so well and still on top in the points. We've not let anything worry us. If anything was going to bother us, it would have been that incident that happened at Richmond at the first of the season, and we bounced right back from that. And, you know, hadn't worried about any Waltrip's comments and went on and raced. I think he psyched himself out this year.
I don't think anybody could psych Darrell Waltrip out. But, you know, I was just thinking, Dale Earnhardt just a moment ago was up behind Jeff Bodine. I think his crew said, look, it's early. Let it drift. Let it go. Don't race it because you'll get in trouble.
Dick Berggren is down in the Darrell Waltrip pit, another one of the prime contenders for this year's season crown.
And I'm with Jeff Hammond, who is Darrell Waltrip's crew chief. Jeff, you guys were contending for the lead earlier, and now you're slipping back. Is there a problem with the car?
Right now, Dick, I believe if the tire staggers changed a little bit on the two tires we got on the car. The car is just a little bit loose. Just kind of biding our time, waiting for caution flag, make a little chassis adjustment, change the tires, tire staggers. okay. It's not bad, but Darrell's just kind of pacing himself right now. Still early in the race.
That's the story from Waltrip, Ben.
Well, the tricky part now, the tightrope, is that the leaders are getting into traffic. And on a short track, it's not like a place like Talladega or Daytona where the other guys move down and graciously let you go by. It's really tough to work your way through traffic. As we watch Tim Richmond, Dave Marcus, can you believe this? Got to comment on this. I know you're not seeing it right now, but Dave Marcus has moved underneath, there it is, has moved underneath Dale Earnhardt. He is really moving to the front.
He gets by Dale Earnhardt. Dave Marcus up to third spot.
Dave Marcus is having easily his best day of 1986. We mentioned that the last couple of months he has been coming on. He's had some really strong finishes in the last 4 or 5 races. He's led at least one lap in 4 of the last 5. Dick Bergman has some more on that situation.
Well, the story with Marcus is that he really likes this racetrack anyway. He still holds the all-time one-lap track record here, but he's especially motivated to do well this afternoon. His sponsor and car owner, Helen Ray, is only a sometime visitor to the Speedway. She is here today, and Marcus said, I want to give that lady a birthday present. Today is his car owner and sponsor's birthday. Boy, would Marcus like a win as a birthday present for her.
Today? Well, you know, the last time he won a Winston Cup race, Benny, was on ESPN. Could this again be the day of Dave Marcus? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Dave Marcus runs in 3rd. Dale Earnhardt is in 4th. Tim Richmond continues to lead this race, but Geoff Bodine is reeling him in. It's getting close. We're still early. Stay with us.
Ike's Liquor Lounge, number 3, located at 1801 34th Street South, St. Petersburg, Florida. Come join the fun, the party, the excitement. The club designed with you in mind. Music mixed by The Fox and Dr. Rock. We specialize in live entertainment, disco, and jazz. Our lowest prices ever from 4 until 2 p.m. nightly. We're open 6 nights a week, Tuesday through Sunday. So come join the fun, the excitement, the party. Ike's Liquor Lounge, number 3.
Going to the airport can be a trying experience. Traffic tie-ups, hauling your luggage, paying the parking fee. With the limo, the Airport Connection, it's a snap. Just call 822-3333. We'll pick you up at your door and take you right to your airline's door, all for one low price. $9.25 to Tampa International Airport or the St. Pete Clearwater Airport from anywhere in Pinellas County. So next time you need to go to the airport, call 822-3333 and relax.
68 laps complete. The Folgers coffee machine continues to, I got to say it at least once, Benny, percolate. Here at North Wilkesboro, Richmond, who has led since the early stages when he took over from Bill Elliott, who surprisingly led the early laps. Richmond had to jump on the green, but Elliott, under the relatively green track conditions and the not superheated tires, was able to pass Richmond, but Bill has since slipped back, and Elliott is about 2/3 of a lap behind. He's in 7th position, but still on the lead lap.
Dave Marcus looking under Geoff Bodine. He's alongside coming off turn 4. Dave Marcus going for 2nd spot.
Dave Marcus has landed on the perfect setup, apparently, for North Wilkesboro today in this 90-degree, 80% humidity day. There goes Dale Earnhardt to the inside of Bodine. Dale Earnhardt, who also put on his own personal good drive here today.
Dale Earnhardt saw Marcus go by and how easily he went by. He said, look, crew or not or whatever, I've got to go by Bodine because if I follow him too long, I'm going to be out of the race because it looks to him like Dave Marcus is going to the front.
Boy, it really does, Benny. Marcus is now about 4 or 5 car lengths behind Richmond, and Earnhardt and Bodine are about 3 car lengths behind Marcus. You know, it's been so seldom, Benny, that Marcus has been in this type of position. Isn't there a little bit of a danger that he has to safeguard against not getting carried away? And remember, this is a 400-lap race, not a 100-lapper.
No, Dave Marcus has been doing this a long time. I think he's been a regular on the Winston Cup Tour since about 1968, 1969. He knows what he's doing, and he's having fun right now. Nothing but fun. But he's going to have a car there the last 100 miles of the race.
Dave Marcus, originally out of Insurance City up in the Midwest, Wausau, Wisconsin, has started 538 times. He's won 5 times in his career. As we mentioned, the last one was here on ESPN. His best finish this year was 2 races ago up at Dover, Delaware, on that murderous 1-mile high bank track when he finished 5th. Tim Richmond on the clocks. We mentioned he sat on the pole. His speed for the pole was 113 miles an hour, an average lap time of around 19.8. We expect him to be significantly slower here in the race. Slower than I thought, Benny.
He's about 2 seconds slower than he qualified. 2 seconds. And folks, in racing, that is the bunch. There, Dave Marcus trying to take the lead, Larry, going down the back straightaway.
Kowicki is in front of him, though.
He's alongside Richmond. Comes off the corner. The people are on their feet.
What an interesting move. Does he have enough room to get up? He needs 3 lanes. Will Kowicki give him? Allen hugs the low side. He washes out just a little bit. Marcus will try to nudge up Richmond. Make 3 lanes down the backstretch. He's got the advantage, but can he turn to the right? He's got to turn left.
Dave Marcus chose to stay behind Kowicki and not move up on the racetrack. Kowicki sees him back. He moves over. Now Marcus to the outside with the lead. And meanwhile, Earnhardt and Richmond get together going in turn 1.
I think we've seen that before, haven't we? Earnhardt and Richmond coming together.
And meanwhile, Jeff Bodine is alongside Tim Richmond. Richmond has to fight for his life to stay 3rd right now. Just a lap ago, he was the leader.
You know, Benny, that was the result of Marcus successfully anticipating just exactly how fast Alan Kowicki was going and how smooth and consistent and predictable Alan would be. It was really a beautiful moment in the race.
There we see the two getting together and going down in the corner. That can be a bad time to bump. Both those guys doing a super job, able to save the car.
Now remember a few laps ago when Marcus passed Dale Earnhardt. There was no mistake involved. There was no lap traffic. Dave Marcus got underneath and around Dale Earnhardt, and he appeared to be faster than Dale after he got by him. Marcus, just an outstanding performance today, easily his best of the last 3 seasons.
Sure is. Meanwhile, Earnhardt looks like he's ready to get up with Dave Marcus and challenge for the lead.
Dick Berggren has been trying to keep up with the progress of Dave Marcus, which hasn't been easy because Marcus has put on the best drive of anybody today. But we understand Dick is with John Hall, Dave's crew chief for today. Dick?
Well, I'm with James Lewis at any rate, Larry. James, are you folks surprised at how well your car is running this afternoon?
Oh, yeah, we're a little bit surprised, but we've been running all good all week. We just kind of messed up qualifying. We wasn't second or third fastest car all week, so we're not really real surprised.
So this is not a fluke. Can you guys sustain this all afternoon?
I hope we stay there all afternoon. This is something new for us, so I hope we stay there.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is one highly motivated crew. You're all jumping up and down. It looks like you're having fun.
Yeah, the lady that owns the cars here, and we're really all enjoying it. This is something good for her.
Okay, that's the story on pit road, Larry.
Dale Earnhardt, with the Winston Cup Championship up for grabs, kinda, is letting it all hang out here.
He and Marcus are side by side. Dave Marcus leads another lap. I don't think that Earnhardt has led a lap yet. He needs to, because there's 5 bonus Winston Cup points if he can lead a lap. So that's why he's trying right now to get up front. But meanwhile, Dave Marcus using Buddy Arrington there, the 67 car as a pick, able to keep Earnhardt behind him.
Dave Marcus, who spends most Monday through Wednesdays testing and building and tweaking IROC cars for Roger Penske, Jason Norrie, and the others who are involved in that particular series. We had an IROC man, test driver, one of the chief mechanics, Ray Evernham, do well in the modified race yesterday. And another one of the IROC people, one of the full-time employees, is starring here in this Winston Cup race.
Right now, Dave Marcus able to put a few car lengths on Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt no longer a threat. Marcus able to pick his own line around the racetrack and not have to worry about Earnhardt being there when he goes in the corner.
Marcus is a little loose, but you might expect that. We're getting up to around lap 100. The track with this 90-degree heat today has got to be getting much slicker.
It is getting slicker. We can see the cars as they come off the corner. The back end wanting to go out just a little bit. That's what Larry's talking about when he says loose, trying to spin out as they come off the turns.
But the real trick is as we go back to 9th, 10th, and 11th, there goes Elliott by. Bonnet is in it. Ricky Rudd, and there's Tommy Ellis. We mentioned that the Ellis crew was very optimistic about this week, and there he makes a move.
There, Ellis trying to get by Ricky Rudd. Ricky Rudd, one of the drivers I talked about at the top of the show. The car to beat at Richmond just a few weeks ago and at Martinsville last week and won the race at Dover. Meanwhile, Tommy Ellis goes right by Ricky Rudd.
Tommy Ellis moves up into the number 10 position. A couple of notes we mentioned just before we went to one of our breaks that Alan Kulwicki had touched the wall. He did lose one lap with a flat left front tire. He's now running about in 20th position. And get this, Benny, NASCAR has credited Dale Earnhardt with leading a lap. He did lead a lap in crossing the scoring line, so he did accumulate that so important 5 bonus points for leading at least one lap. So that means that Waltrip is the only one of the 3 Musketeers who hadn't had one yet today.
There we see Bill Elliott being some heavy pressure from Neil Bonnet's Budweiser Chevrolet. They come off the 4th corner. Neil. Bill Elliott started on the outside pole. And last week, Bill Elliott is now what, 9th spot? And we might say that he's doing badly. But last week in 40 laps at Martinsville, he was lapped. Today we're almost 100 laps into the event. He's still in the lead lap. So in my mind, he's about twice as good as he was last week.
Well, Benny and I talked about the surprises of 1986 and how they seem to continue this weekend here at North Wilkesboro. And if that's not a big surprise, Dave Marcus racing to the lead past all the favorites. I don't know what is.
To win the 1986 Daytona 500, Jeff Bodine relied on the same Exxon motor oil you can buy in stores. Exxon Uniflow for fuel savings and top protection. Protection against grinding friction. Protection against searing engine heat. Give your car the same protection as the Daytona 500 champion. Exxon Uniflow 10W30 motor oil.
Hi, honey, I'm home. Ooh, I like the way it looks.
I'll be finished soon.
Oh, good. Look, I bought you some new fishing clothes.
Hey, those are nice. Thanks. In fact, I'll wear them this afternoon.
From work to weekends, Dickies are America's favorite work clothes, made with Celanese Fortrel polyester.
Get that all-American feeling with live college football on ESPN. You're on campus with the sights and sounds surrounding the nation's #1 team. Cheer with the best every Saturday night and with exclusive Thursday night specials. Live college football on ESPN for that all-American feeling. Cal State Fullerton tries to shut down the Tulsa Hurricane passing attack in a live college football special. Thursday night at 8 Eastern on ESPN.
A lot of things have happened since you were away, none of them particularly traumatic. Chet Phillips spun. You see Michael Waltrip kind of staggering away from his machine, Benny. Michael does not look to be in the perfect of health. It looks like fire underneath the hood of the number 23 Pontiac that Michael qualified so well in here at North Wilkes this weekend. We mentioned that Chet Phillips had spun, and as the yellow flag came out, Earnhardt, there's Chet Phillips. We'll get back to that story in just a second. There goes Chet Phillips from Ozona, Texas, spinning down into the dirt off of turn number 2. There goes Richmond going by on the high side. There goes the number 17 of Eddie Hirschwald. There is Dale Earnhardt, who was second on the track before this yellow flag happened. He raced side by side, 3 abreast, with Dave Marcus on the outside, Bobby Allison in the middle, trying to preserve a lap. Now watch what happens.
Oh, boy. Wow. That was close. Marcus determined to keep Bobby Allison a lap down, and Bobby got in a position. He was the bologna in the sandwich. He had to get out of the throttle.
Boy, I'll tell you, you talk about being between a rock and a hard place. That is where Bobby Allison was, and Allison unfortunately lost the lap. I am still a little surprised, even though it was Bobby Allison on a short track. Whenever you get an opportunity to put him a lap down, you do it. Marcus really let it all hang out for only 100 laps into the race, Benny.
Well, as I said, Dave Marks has been around a long time. He knows what he's doing. And Bobby Allison, as you said, he's a fellow who can win this race. He needed to keep him a lap down.
We've been inside Joe Ruttman's car at certain times over the weekend. We're going to take you inside now, the in-car camera, to the Quaker State King Racing Buick. There you see a little dangling image from the rear view mirror. You know what that is? That's a rabbit's foot. John Dangler told me they are willing to try anything this time. I think that most people will agree this is the most successful team that didn't have a win this year.
Joe Ruttman this year has just been disastrous for Joe. Every time that the car's been up front, something always happens involved in an accident, has a mechanical problem. But Joe Ruttman, a good race car driver, and as you mentioned, Kenny Bernstein's Buick, a top-notch team. Next year, Morgan Shepherd's going to be driving this automobile, and I think the Ruttman is going to be moving to another team.
Benny, they've had a pretty good day. You can see 5 top 10 finishes in 7 short track races. He's had a good run also the last month. He and Neil Bonnet, he had remained on the lead lap before this caution, and he was scored as high as 7th position before this caution flag and all these round of pit stops. So we'll rehash and see where Ruttman is right after this.
When I'm flying at real low altitude, the last thing I need is trouble. This Indy Pace car is all stock from the ground up, and AC Delco parts help make it perform. Parts that keep this car running right, and your car too. For the AC Delco retailer nearest you, just give me a call at 1-800-AC-DELCO. Stay ahead of trouble with AC Delco parts.
This liquid can help keep your engine running cool, prevent corrosion, keep it from boiling over or freezing up. What's in it? Aluguard, a premium quality antifreeze formula approved by all 4 major U.S. car makers. Aluguard, a formula you find in more than 70 brands of antifreeze, but not in Prestone. The label tells you it's car maker approved antifreeze. Antifreeze with Aluguard. Available now.
Place, Daytona Beach. The race, the Eastern 3 hours. The history, the birthplace of speed. The challenge to find out who will be the best. The showdown, the Eastern 3 hours of Daytona. October 26, 1986. Daytona International Speedway, Daytona Beach, Florida. Eastern, IMSA, Daytona, the showdown. Don't miss it.
Quarter of the way in, Richard Childress, Kurt Shelmerdine and crew did the job, got Dale Earnhardt in and out of the pits. He picked up a position on Dave Marcus, who actually lost 2 positions. Jeff Bodine comes out of the pits at 2nd, Marcus is 3rd, Richmond 4th, Waltrip 5th, Labonte 6th, then Bonnet 7th, Ruttman 8th, Ricky Rudd 9th, and Richard Petty 10th. Green flag, back to action.
Dale Earnhardt has Bobby Allison right behind him. Bobby, as we saw just a moment ago, trying to get a lap back. And right behind Bobby is Rusty Wallace in the Aluguard Pontiac number 27, trying to get his lap back.
Yeah, with what we've seen from Wallace, particularly in recent weeks, I would think that's the car to watch right now. Wallace has got to think, I'm only a lap down. It's still relatively early in this race. This has got to be my big chance. If I've got anything, I've got to show it all now.
That's right, but Dave Marcus moves by Rusty on the outside. Either that's showing the strength of Dave Marcus or the weakness of Rusty Wallace at this point in time. And look at Terry Labonte's Oldsmobile alongside Tim Richmond. Labonte, another name heard from.
Must have kicked in the turbo, huh?
He must have got one of the engines off one of those Piedmont Airlines jets because he went right by Tim Richmond.
Terry Labonte found a sticky spot on the track for him, and those Goodyear Eagles just kind of grabbed a hold and hurtled him forward. Going inside to Joe Ruttman. There he is. You see him following Neil Bonnet. He's been following Neil Bonnet for about the last 15 minutes. You see the rabbit's foot dangling, and Joe Ruttman in the Quaker State Buick looking for a way to get around Neil Bonnet. Bonnet 7th, Ruttman 8th.
This is going down the back straightaway, down in turn 3, right on the bottom of the racetrack, right up against the curb. The white thing you see there, That's a small curve, about 3-4 inches high, and they want to have their car just as tight down to the inside as you can possibly get it. Down in 1 and 2, we move up the racetrack, coming off the corner right down to the curbing.
A tremendous innovation for auto race broadcasting in the 80s. The in-car camera. Boy, just sit back and enjoy it.
There, Joe Ruttman trying to get alongside Neil Bonnet. They're going down in turn 1. He's on the inside of Bonnet. Bonnet gets a little bit better traction on the outside, comes back a little bit. So very, very close. These cars are so equal.
Going back up front to Dale Earnhardt, there is what you were just watching, and Ruttman has gotten around Neil Bonnet and kind of absconded with, for the time being, 7th position. Joe Ruttman, Larry McReynolds and Joe told me earlier today, yeah, they were surprised and disappointed and confused. They had all kinds of emotions about what they thought was a disappointed qualifying run yesterday, but they had a lot of confidence for today. So a fellow who was disappointed about today but was happy, conversely, about qualifying yesterday is right now with Dick Berger.
Well, Mike Waltrip, looks like you had a hot time in the car this afternoon. What caused the fire?
Well, I guess some electrical wiring got against something and caught on fire. I couldn't breathe. I had to bail out of the car, and once we got it itself burned out, we pushed it back in. We're going to do our best to get the Hawaiian Punch Days in Pontiac back together and in this race. We're running pretty good.
He's got a rookie battle. He's trying to beat Alan Kulwicki to win that title this year, so that's why he wants to get back in so badly.
They both, that is, Alan and he, qualified well yesterday, but the race hasn't been to either their likings, although Alan is only a lap down. Alan right now has the advantage over Michael, and he would really like to get back in this one, Michael would.
I'm sure he would. Dale Earnhardt just a few laps ago, after the caution flag, pulled away from the rest of the field. But right now, they are closing up, and closing up very rapidly. Bobby Allison, who we talked about a lap down, gets moved up, and he's just a car length or so away from Dale Earnhardt. I don't know if Earnhardt has a problem, or these other cars are just that fast right now.
Well, among the front 10, as a matter of fact, Tommy Ellis continues to motor on the lead lap. They are all within relatively close striking distance. Ellis is a little less than a half a lap behind in 10th position, and directly in front of him, as we look at the 10th, 9th, and 8th positions we were talking about, are Bonnet and Bill Elliott. You can see how close they are all running. Harry Gantz right in there. Richard Petty is right in front of him. But Elliott and Bonnet doing some good old short track racing here in the middle stages.
They are. Neil Bonnet, not Joe Ruttman, passing just a few laps going. Ruttman now has a straightaway on Bonnet. So Neil evidently having some problems. Probably changed tires. The tire size of the Steiger not exactly right. He's got to try to get by the best he can until they can make another pit stop.
All in all, Bill Elliott still turning in one of his better short track performances as he rides along the inside of Neil Bonnet, averaging about 110 miles an hour around this 5/8 mile oval. They'll crest it about 135 or 140 before shutting off these 3,700-pound behemoths going into these corners.
Bobby Allison just a moment ago got underneath the 3-car of Dale Earnhardt as they went down in 1 and 2. Earnhardt kind of took away the racetrack. Bobby backed out of it.
Bobby Allison fighting to get his lap back. Jeff Bodine is third right now in line. He's second in the race. Jeff Bodine has been around short tracks for a long time. This is where he began, although he began in the open wheelers, but Bodine still has a lot of experience on this type of track. Jeff Bodine, who has been one of the swiftest drivers, if not the swiftest of 1986, talked about that very thing yesterday to us.
It's a tough racetrack. I don't know any easy ones, but this is a tough one. But it's wide enough and designed in the fashion that you can pass, you can maneuver, you can outsmart the guy or make him run a little too hard and get underneath him, or even pass him on the outside if you're real lucky. But so I like it here, and the people get enthused about this type of racing. They really get into it here at Wilkesboro, and they love their short track racing.
Boy, there's some drama shaping up front. There is Allison fighting not only Earnhardt, but also trying to hold his position. Allison on the verge of getting this lap back.
He's alongside Earnhardt. Now, if he can just move Dale up the racetrack a little bit, he'll have him. But Dale coming back real strong.
Dale's job is to get down low if he can, going into 3 and 4. He can't. Now they're going to go downhill. Allison gets a nice bit of oomph going through 3 and 4, but Earnhardt on the high side has just a little more banking to lean on.
He has a little bit more banking, and he has a little more RPM working for him. Once you move up the racetrack, you get a little more RPM, so you come off the corner with a little more horsepower. But Bobby looking good right now. He's about a car length better off than he was the last lap. Now, if he can just shoot by Earnhardt, come up the racetrack a little bit.
He's got it.
Yeah, he's got it.
Bobby Allison makes the 14th car to lead lap. Now Bodine trying to follow him through. And Bodine nudges Dale Earnhardt, moves him over and says, hey, I want to do that too.
That's right. Bodine looking real good. A half a car length on Earnhardt going down the back straightaway. Yes, he has the lead. Jeff Bodine in the lead. Meanwhile, Bobby Allison in 22 is in the lead lap. If he can get a caution flag right now, he's able to go all the way around and make up 5/8 of a mile.
And Marcus has moved underneath Earnhardt also, and Dave Marcus in that Helen Ray special, the orange and green number 71, has moved his Chevrolet back into second spot again. He trails the Chevrolet of Jeff Bodine, and he has another Chevrolet in third place.
Dave Marcus can't say enough about his run this afternoon. Right now, second place. It looks like he's closing up on Bodine, just a couple of car lengths behind him. And meanwhile, Jeff Bodine right on the back bumper of Bobby Allison's Miller American Buick.
Remember, this is not a fight for the lead. Bobby Allison is trying to drive 10 tenths. You hear professional racing drivers talk about running 9.5 tenths from time to time, depending upon whatever the particular factors of that race at that time are. Well, right now, there's only one factor for Bobby Allison: do whatever I can to stay on the lead lap before the next caution flag. As we look at Marcus and think about the possibilities of him winning this race, should he do so, he would be the 13th different winner of 1986 in Winston Cup racing. Last night at Rougemont, North Carolina at the Orange County Speedway, Larry Pearson became the 13th different winner in the Grand National Series. Can Marcus duplicate that here today? We'll see.
You know, a lot of cars out there have ride problems. Why? It may be their springs, especially when you load up. They can cause sag or bottoming out. Now there's a solution. Cargo Coils by Moog. Different from standard springs. Let me show you why. These closely spaced coils smooth the ride, and Cargo Coils have these stronger coils to take over when you load up. So when you hit the road, don't hit the road. Get a pair of Moog Cargo Coils at your mechanic or auto parts store.
On the track or on the road, it all boils down to dependability. And these two words spell dependability best. Sealed Power. Sealed Power piston rings are the heart of a complete engine parts line that really delivers dependability. Right, Waddell?
I tell you what, if I could find parts better than Sealed Power, I'd use them.
Sealed Power piston rings, Sealed Power engine kits, and Sealed Power parts.
You can't do better when you want an engine to do its best.
The labors of Bobby Allison have been rewarded. We're under caution flag, and the caution flag was for this reason the only Oldsmobile in the field. You don't see this too often, do you, Benny?
No, you sure don't. Joe Ruttman moved alongside Terry Labonte. Terry comes down the hill. Joe just touches the left rear of Terry's Oldsmobile, and around he goes. When you're coming off the corner, the car's trying to spin out already. It only needs a slight push, and around it goes.
Yeah, and, you know, to make the call on that, it sure looked like that Ruttman had the line. He was moved up about a half a lane, but he was on the inside, and normally it's the responsibility of the guy on the outside to avoid the fellow on the inside.
Well, that's right. You're supposed to know he's there, although sometimes that's very difficult.
Pit stops bring everybody in, of course, somewhat prematurely, although things should remain as they were before the yellow flag. Although, interestingly enough, Bodine and Marcus and Earnhardt, I think, stayed out. Everybody else seemed to come in. We have had 6 leaders in this race, including the most current run. Jeff Bodine, there is a tire mark on the outside of Terry Labonte's car as Steve Meal and crew go to work. That crew will be intact for next year, and they will be hosting a brand new driver. Sterling Marlin has been announced as the probable replacement. I got a piece of information last night, Benny, that Marlin has not officially been released from his contract with Haas Ellington yet, but it's a problem.
Well, they had a press conference up in Winston-Salem at Piedmont's headquarters last week and announced that Sterling Marlin would be the driver, but we still get reports out of Wilmington, North Carolina, headquarters of Haas Ellington, that as far as they're concerned, Sterling Marlin is still their driver next year. So Sterling has two choices. He can go either way. He can go in the 44 car, the Piedmont Airlines Oldsmobile, Wayne King and Billy Hagan, or he can drive for Haas Ellington in the Bullseye Barbecue sauce car.
Based on the performance of Haas's #1 car this year, it's not a bad choice between the two of them, although you never know the legal ramifications which are involved. We obviously haven't seen the final chapter of that story yet, but that 44 car is a pretty fair country racer to be kind of available.
It's a very good car available. We're looking at Jeff Bodine, the Levi Garrett Chevrolet, the leader.
That spin happened that Terry Labonte just executed right in front of Joe Ruttman. Look what happened. Moving out of turn number 4, down the front stretch, the spin will happen coming out of turn number 1. Ruttman goes to the inside of Terry.
He goes down the inside and see when Terry comes back across the racetrack, just gets touched in the left rear by Joe Ruttman. Around he goes.
Now we'll look at it in slow motion. You can make your own call. It's real difficult to assess from the in-car camera what's going on, but you can see Ruttman in his line. Terry makes a left turn, seemingly a little sudden. You cannot really see from the camera angle right there, but obviously the fender's touched.
You know, Bobby Allison, he fought his way back, got in the lead lap, did not pit when the caution came out, did not pit, went all the way around the racetrack. All the cars that he was racing for in position went in the pits. Now he goes from a lap down or right in front of the leader.
Can you believe that?
To 4th spot on the racetrack. It's amazing.
Okay, Dick Bergman, you got something for us?
Yeah, I do, as a matter of fact, Larry. From my observation down here in the pits, this is shaping up to be a very, very rough race. I would estimate that right now at least 50% of the cars are marked. Among the front runners, we've got Earnhardt, Rusty Wallace, Tim Richmond, Dave Marcus, Richard Petty, Neil Bonnet, all with tire marks on the left sides of their automobiles. And I would say on the pit stops that we've seen, probably 1 car in 3 is taking off a tire with somebody else's paint on it. These guys are leaning on each other.
I'll bet that you can tell from the roar that we've gone back to green. Yes, it's true. Jeff Bodine, we mentioned the most recent of 6 leaders. Rusty Wallace in that metallic blue. Raymond Beadle, All-U-Guard number 27, is trying to get his lap back.
Trying his hardest to get his lap back. He's got alongside Bodine on the restart and now tries to get alongside Jeff coming off the second corner. Almost made it. Rusty Wallace seems to be hooked up very well right now.
14 cars were on the lead lap at the conclusion of that most recent rash of pit stops. I'll give them to you quickly. The first 4 leaders of the race: Bodine, Marcus, Earnhardt, Allison, Bobby, then Waltrip, Gant, Rudd, Richard Petty, Richmond, Ruttman, Bill Elliott, Neil Bonnet inside Joe Ruttman's car, Tommy Ellis, and the number 44 car, Terry Labonte.
He's trying to go by, that's Kyle Petty right in front of him in the 711 car. The Morgan Shepherd automobile. The Pontiac right in front of Joe. Morgan, meanwhile, moves to the inside of Kyle Petty. Joe says, okay, I'll follow you. And goes by Kyle Petty down in turn 3. Right on the bottom of the racetrack. Joe's car doing a super job staying on the bottom of the racetrack.
Benny, you and I were talking as we watched Wallace again trying to move underneath Bodine. Kind of like the race that Ruttman has been running. It's been a smooth race. He climbed out of that hole he had dug for himself in qualifying. He's been running in the top 6 and top 7. The pit stop set him back a couple of positions, but if he stays in this all day, I have a feeling he's a car to watch.
Rusty Wallace again looks inside Bodine and looks like he has a shot at it this time, Larry. He's got, and Bodine comes back.
You can charge harder into number 3 than you can into number 1. You're going uphill there and the banks will just reach out and grab you. It's not like being on the telephone line or not like being at Talladega, but it's the same kind of idea.
Look at that crowd. Look at Bobby Alston on the outside. That's 22. Bobby Alston. Harry Gant alongside him. This is for about 4th spot. Richard Petty goes blowing by. Meanwhile, Bobby has Darrell Waltrip in 11 hung behind him. That's Morgan Shepherd. He's several laps down. Joe Ruttman, he's into the battle right now.
Here's the starting lineup for today's first heat. On the pole in car number 90 is Ken Schrader. On the outside is number 33, Harry Gant. Well, that's what I used to say about 15 years ago. That's what it looks like, the lineup for the first heat.
That's what it does look like. Bobby Allison comes down the racetrack in front of Joe Ruttman's car, and Ruttman has Darrell Waltrip on the outside of him.
I'll tell you what else that is, Benny. That is a livid, in-color example of what the meaning of the word trust is.
Yes, Darrell Waltrip certainly has to trust Bobby Allison as he comes off that corner to know that Bobby's not going to come up the racetrack and pinch him into the outside retaining wall. Meanwhile, Bobby and Darrell side by side right in front of Joe Ruttman.
Staying in the Quaker State Buick, you see what it looks like from inside the car as they try to move to the outside of Ken Schrader. There is a view of what it looks like both ways, as the people here in the grandstand at North Wilkes sees it, and as Joe Ruttman sees the action, as well as the people on the right in the grandstand here at North Wilkesboro. Really interesting shot. Great job, guys. I'll tell you, that is really exciting, and that's a lot of fun.
Bobby Allison, meanwhile, has got behind the 90 car of Ken Schrader, and now Ricky Rudd goes by him on the outside.
These guys are battling for third on back. That's close enough. At this stage of the race, it's just terrific racing. Bodine is holding on. Wallace is connected right to his rear deck lid. He's not gotten around. Here's where the real action is, where you are right now.
And there's Dale Earnhardt in the three car. That's Earnhardt, and folks, he did not stop, did not change tires, and it looks like, to me, it's got to be a bad mistake because he is slowly drifting his way back through the field. He's back to 5th spot right now. Darrell Waltrip trying to take that away from him, and right behind Waltrip is the 26 car of Joe Ruttman. So Earnhardt desperately needing those new tires. He did not stop it yet.
Excuse me, that's 5th spot. Waltrip takes it over. Earnhardt is 6th, Ruttman is 7th, and Rudd is 8th. Well, the racing here at North Wilkesboro has never been any better, and you've been right in the midst of it. Many thanks to Joe Ruttman, Kenny Bernstein, and crew. You have been watching what's been happening on the racetrack and inside the race car. I can't believe you're going away.
I'm the kind of person who knows what he wants in life. From the clothes I wear to the car I drive, I want them to be right. And when my car's transmission needs a helping hand, the one I trust to fix it right is my own Cotman man. Yeah, for every job, big or small, there's one man I count on. He's my Cotman man, and he keeps me rolling along.
Are you tired of being refused for a car because of past credit problems, high down payments, or no credit record at all?
Don't fret. Come to Fett Motors, the no-hassle place to buy a clean, quality, pre-owned car. With Instant Credit, no one has ever refused at Fett Motors. We'll make it easy for you to buy a car with low down payments, no interest charge, no credit checks, and low weekly payments. We have a huge selection of pre-owned cars. Remember, don't fret. Come see me, Joe Fett, at Fett Motors. Remember, your best bet is with Fett.
Doubt how the St. Louis Cardinals plan to stop Herschel Walker on the Zenith NFL Monday night matchup. The Cowboys have the best backfield in football, but the Cardinals say their defense is ready. ESPN spotlights the NFC East Monday night at 8:30 Eastern.
Benny, the unexpected continues to happen. Now, here's what's going on the last few laps. There's first place. Yeah, we expected that. He's been there. This is the battle for third position. Yeah, that's Richard Petty. He's on the lead lap. He's in third. Harry Gant right there at the bottom of your screen is in second. Marcus is fourth. Waltrip is fifth. Ricky Rudd is sixth. And Joe Ruttman is seventh. But Richard Petty is up there and having one of his better days. He's getting ready to challenge for second position.
He is gaining on Harry Gant. Harry Gant in the Skoal Bandit changed some tires. He fought his way up to second place. And Richard Petty is coming on strong. But there again, he has the new tires on. He has fresher tires than Jeff Bodine, who currently is leading the race.
Richard Petty, who is tied, Petty Enterprises actually, with Junior Johnson for the most number of wins here. I suppose there must have been thoughts at one time or another through certain people's heads that maybe Richard would never win again here at North Wilkesboro. But I'll tell you, this is like the Richard of old. He's getting ready to joust and do battle for up front.
Well, this is the type of racetrack that Richard Petty has always been so successful at. It's hot today, folks. It's slick. And these cars are slipping and sliding all over the speedway, trying to lose the back end off the corner. That's when Richard Petty's car and the Petty Enterprises car come to the front. That's when they excel.
Richard Petty, who has accumulated over $6 million. That's a 6 with 6 zeros behind it. In his career as a Winston Cup and Grand National stock car driver, is 49 years of age this year, and he's looking like a 49-year young. Dale Lindemann, of course, cousin, has been the crew chief in 1986. It's a return of a team that put together all those glory years when Richard would win 20 and 25 times a year. He has only won $192,000 this year, and his best finish has been a third at Rockingham. And because of that, even though by most standards that's a good season, the pressure's on Richard a little bit in 1986. He's not having those years like he had in 1960 and 1970, and logically a lot of questions are being asked, and Richard has the answers.
Well, Richard, as we wind down the season, is the pressure really on for you to win a race and the other teams who have not yet won?
Well, yeah, definitely. You know, you hate to go through a whole season not win any races, but, you know, you're looking at a standpoint, if you win a race, you get on the winner's circle, it means so much monetary-wise, but it means so much as sponsorship deal as far as figuring on next year and trying to put your stuff together, and it gives all the boys that work on the car a boost so that when you start into next year, they say, well, we finished up a good year and, you know, we're ready to go again.
The winners of 1985 who have not won yet in 1986, Richard was winless last year. Harry Gant, Neil Bonnet, Cale Yarborough, who runs a abbreviated schedule, and Greg Sachs. We've already commented that Joe Ruttman is still looking for career win number 1. But we've had so many winners this year, it's hard to believe that there are 4 or 5. Hey, Marcus is another real candidate who could win one here.
How about me?
You won a race.
I haven't won a race this year.
What was that, $75,000?
It was, look, Richard Petty alongside Harry Gant, and the people are on their feet cheering Richard on. Richard goes by Harry, just bam, right by him, and he's got his eyes set on the front.
Boy, the people, if you've ever wondered, gee, have they kind of forgotten? No, they haven't. Benny, of course, won the Invitational down at Atlanta earlier this year.
But that wasn't a real race.
Yeah, but nice payday, wasn't it?
It was a good payday.
Puts Benny into the Winston for next year, but Benny, you do have a pole this year. Still looking for a win number 1. You got a shot. We got a couple of super speedway races coming up here where you performed reasonably well.
I got 3 more chances at it anyway.
But meanwhile, back to the race. Richard Petty, number 43, has just gotten around number 33, shouldered by Harry. He's got a ways to go to Jeff Bodine, and Benny, both you and Dick were making a point during the most recent commercial about Bodine not changing tires. Wow, he's showing us something.
He is really showing something. I'm sitting here watching the race while we were on commercial, and I am most impressed. As I was last week in Martinsville, I was there for that race and not competing, but watching the race, and Jeff Bodine was super impressive. And today, he just driving away.
There is, Jeff. You know, Benny, I thought last week after what happened in Martinsville, some people on the surface immediately probably would have liked to chuckle and laugh and maybe criticize Jeff, but the way he handled the situation at the end of the race, you know, it was real, it was honest, and I really admire him for it. He lost the race in the pits. He had him covered on the racetrack, and because of what went on in the pits, he lost the race. He came in, he was angry, he went and hit himself, and those of us who know him well recognized the anger. Then he sat down, he collected his thoughts, he came back out, he thought about all the good things that have been happening, are happening, and are going to happen. He said, well, yeah, we lost. You know, I'm disappointed, but we're going to come back. They have.
They really have, and today they're running as well as they were at Martinsville last week. And unless something happens, he's going to make shambles out of this thing.
Hey,
but
really
Richard Petty, if he can do anything about it, he sure will, because it's been a long time, as you mentioned, since Richard Petty had a win. He needs one.
Firecracker 84.
That's correct.
Number 200 was the last one, so we're more than 2 years since it occurred. In front of President Reagan is the last time that Richard Petty won. Is President Reagan here today? I don't see him up here in the press box, but Richard still might have a good day anyway.
Rusty Wallace had that unscheduled pit stop and lost a lap, but I tell you, he's hanging in there with Jeff Bodine as well as anyone on the racetrack. There up in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, folks, you can see we're timing Jeff Bodine's lap around the racetrack. Just a moment ago, we timed Tim Richmond. He ran a lap at 21.9 seconds. And let's see if Jeff Bodine could do a little bit better than that. Yes, 21.4. A half-second faster than Richmond was running earlier on in the race. So that's pretty good speed right now.
Average speed above 105 miles per hour, 169 laps in this race. So not yet quite halfway, but approaching that point. We'll go back and look at Richard Petty. Incidentally, as we watch the King, Dale Earnhardt has faded to 13th position in this race. He is not yet quite in jeopardy of losing a lap as we start the stopwatch on Richard Petty. But Earnhardt, as you and Dick both noticed, both from up here and down there, Benny, really has slipped back. Not changing tires being the last caution flag was not the right decision.
It was for Jeff Bodine. It certainly wasn't for Dale Earnhardt. Here we're timing Richard Petty, 21.5, just 1/10 of a second slower than Jeff Bodine. But Richard has better tires.
And both of them had a clear track, so that was a pretty fair opportunity, really, to judge their relative speeds. In fourth right now is Darrell Waltrip. In fifth is car number 15, Ricky Rudd.
And Ricky finished second here to Dale Earnhardt in the spring race. He closed up on the back bumper of Darrell Waltrip, doing a very good job in Bud Moore's Ford, keeping the car in contention. Doesn't look like he's outrunning Darrell that much. He is able to hang with him, but it doesn't look like he's going to have any success in getting by him.
When you think short track, particularly in '86, you think of the wily veteran car owner, chief mechanic Bud Moore and Ricky Rudd. There have been 6 short track races. He's had 3 crashes. At least 1 or 2 have not been because of his own volition. The other 3 races he's finished, he's had 2 seconds and a first. So Ricky Rudd and Bud Moore, they have their act together on short tracks, and somebody to keep in mind. He right now trails Darrell Waltrip on the track, and everybody trails Jeff Bodine, who has been Mr. Speedorino of 1986.
In 1985, the winning cars of the most prestigious auto races were equipped with Goodyear Racing Eagles. So it's small wonder that in 1986, most of the finest high-performance street cars are equipped with Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles, or you need them.
You know, we're one of the toughest teams in racing because everything we do as a team. Now, getting a winning team like us to switch motor oils isn't easy. But when we saw how much more horsepower we got with Citgo, well, it was a unanimous decision, even though it was my idea.
Citgo, the one oil tough enough to make you switch.
Of course, our old oil wasn't bad. In fact, we'd be happy to recommend it to anyone racing against us.
The first look will move you with revealing shapes that reveal even more about the overall design. But there's an inner design that can only be felt when these cars are actually driven. This is Ford today, designed to move you like never before.
Have you driven a Ford lately?
Mighty Auto Parts. Tough. Dependable. Backed by a mighty guarantee. Next time, go with a mighty pro. He knows what it takes to keep your car in shape.
It takes a mighty parts to please the pro. Mighty.
If you're a racing fan, you are exactly where you need to be for the rest of the day at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time later this afternoon. Here on ESPN, the CART Indy cars from the Michigan International Speedway for the Pepsi-Cola 250. speeds at well in excess of 215 miles an hour, peaking at 220 miles an hour. Of course, there's that great points battle going on in kart. Bobby Rahal picked up a point for being fast qualifier at the rained-out Elkhart Lake IndyCar race last weekend. Rick Mears sitting on a pole once again at Michigan International Speedway.
While we wait our commercials, Jeff Bodine in the 5 Levi Garrett Chevrolet put up the Bill Elliott Ford a lap down. Bill, who ran so strong earlier on, qualified outside pole today. Jeff Bodine, that's how strong he is right now, has lapped the 9 car of Bill Elliott. And he's right behind Terry Labonte's Oldsmobile to put him a lap down.
Labonte is about to be lapped by Jeff Bodine. As we look at second place, Richard Petty going around J.D. McDuffie. Richard Petty continues to be, within about a quarter of a straightaway from Jeff Bodine. Here comes Jeffrey off of turn number 4, breathing down the tailpipes of Terry Labonte in the Piedmont car.
Labonte trying to run in the middle of the racetrack, take every advantage that he can to keep in the lead lap. But no, Jeff Bodine just too strong. Dives inside of it going in turn 3. Sticks on the bottom of the racetrack. Labonte can't stick down there. Jeff Bodine clearly passes it going down in turn 1.
Now,
and Larry, right in front of Jeff Bodine is Dale Earnhardt. Just a half straightaway in front of Jeff Bodine is Earnhardt. There he is, right in the screen, and we see how close he is to becoming a lap down.
You know, Benny, we haven't talked about points very much, and you mentioned Earnhardt, you start thinking about points. Waltrip right now is 4th in the race. Richmond is 8th, and Earnhardt is 12th. So the two pretenders to the throne so far in 1986, they're gaining a little bit of ground on Dale.
They sure are. Meanwhile, Earnhardt really having problems getting around the racetrack. Jeff Bodine getting closer and closer every lap. Kenny Schrader, the only car between Earnhardt's car and Bodine's car.
Listen to this about Jeff Bodine and his ability to be the fastest riding steed on the race course this year. He has led in all but 4 races. Here he is moving in on Ken Schrader. He has been the biggest leader, the most significant leader in a race 9 times this year. He has led in 20 of 24 races on the 1986 trail. He has led the last 15, now make it 16 races in a row. And Dale Earnhardt has got to be looking in that big rearview mirror. All he sees right now is Levi Garrett gold.
And Dale Earnhardt needs to stay in the lead lap. He needs to fight Jeff Bodine tooth and nail to stay in the lead lap. But can he afford to, Larry, with a championship maybe riding in the balance? I don't think he can. He moves over, lets Bodine go.
Both of these guys failed to stop on that last caution on lap 129. Now, that was about 60, 70 laps ago. Both of them are on old tires. Both of them have to be thinking about coming in sometime in the next 15 minutes. But look at the difference in the performance of Bodine and Gary Nelson on an old set of tires. And Shelmerdine, I was going to say Shelmerdine and Richard Childress and Dale Earnhardt, they touch.
And meanwhile, Rusty Wallace, I don't know exactly, he thought they had spun or what have you. He dove to the outside to avoid the 2 cars, got up in the loose stuff and almost spun, lost several car lengths in the meantime.
Boy, Dale Earnhardt, he's tenacious, isn't he? He is a tough customer, as the saying goes.
There we see him going in the corner. Earnhardt, Bodine thinks he's by Earnhardt. He starts coming back down. They touch. And look at Rusty Wallace, Larry, right up on the outside guardrail.
Rusty Wallace way up in the marbles. Now, I've seen Harry Gann and Richard Petty run up there, but not at North Wilkesboro, not at this point in the race, not because of that.
There, Rusty Wallace goes by the Kenny Schrader Ford, the Red Baron Frozen Pizza.
Who gives him away. Rusty gives one to Kenny as Kenny moves over. Lets the faster car go by. Rusty going to go to work now on Dale Earnhardt. Rusty is a lap down, of course, to the leader also. He's been trying to stay within striking distance. He is, right now, once he gets by Earnhardt, the leader of those cars that are 1 lap down. Rusty runs in 14th position with, make that 12th position with Earnhardt in 13th position. They are the only two cars. No, there are two more cars, I guess, that are... No, they are the only two that are one lap down.
Well, that was for position, but Rusty Wallace is hooked up. Earnhardt just cannot get off the corners right now. Earnhardt got some serious problems with his automobile, and I don't know how much longer he's going to stay out there and try to fight the car.
Benny, you know, you hear the crews talk about, well, this set of tires, you know, the stagger's just a little bit off. Is it a matter that it may be that this set of tires just doesn't work right with the springs you have on right now, what that sway bar set at, whereas if you have another set of tires, they might work just perfectly on the setup you have?
Sure, because you just don't ever know exactly what's going to happen to those tires once you put them on there. Meanwhile, Terry Labonte's Oldsmobile goes by Schrader. He's got his eye on Earnhardt, and that's for another position.
This is yet another race that has been dominated by crew chief Gary Nelson and driver Jeff Bodine in the Levi Garrett car. We are now halfway away around this race, and Bodine's got it covered so far.
They say the best ones are the hard ones. These you don't break. You try to reach an agreement. And when you do, you head for the mountains. Head for the beer brewed natural as a mountain stream, for a taste as smooth as its name. Busch. Head for Busch beer. Head for the mountain.
The first look will move you. With revealing shapes that reveal even more about the overall design. A design that's all-encompassing, that embraces the entire line. But there's an inner design beneath the surface that can only be felt when these cars are actually driven. This is Ford today, designed to move you like never before.
For over 100 years, hunters could always depend on one brand of ammunition, Winchester. Load up with the legend, Winchester.
With 200 of the 400 laps of the North Wilkesboro Winston Cup race down, we bring you the Napa Mid-Race Report, brought to you by your neighborhood Napa store, with Kathy Bodine in the background, whose husband's doing reasonably well. After 200 laps, the average speed almost 93 miles an hour. There had been 3 caution flags for a total of 18 laps. In all, there had been 6 different leaders. There had been 6 lead changes among the 6 of them. The lap leader at the halfway point was Jeff Bodine. He had led a total of 78 laps, dominating this race. There were 12 cars in the lead lap and 26 of the 30 that qualified still running. The cars out of the race, the return of Joe Milliken in a car out of Richmond, Virginia. Trevor Boys in James Hilton's car. D.K. Allwick was his own driver this weekend, and Jimmy Means, who showed up with brand new bodywork this week in North Wilkes, had also dropped from the event. Dick Berggren has been watching the proceedings from down pit side, and Dick, bring us up to date mid-race style.
Well, Larry, you can expect some pit stops coming up here fairly soon. About 20 laps ago, Bodine's crew said they would have to come in very, very soon. They've got about 5 or 10 more laps that they can stay out there, and that's it. Earnhardt's also have to come in. Both of those cars are running very low on fuel right now. Meanwhile, we had speculated earlier that Richard Petty may have an overheating problem because the ductwork that leads into his radiator is all pushed in, letting little air go through it. However, his crew chief, Dale Inman, said, no problem, we got no overheating, we're running just fine. Larry?
Just to the left of Dick's head was the picture of Jeff Bodine, who's leading this race. Richard Petty is second, Harry Gannis third, Darrell Waltrip is fourth, and Ricky Rudd is fifth. We'll be back with the remainder of the race after this.
Catch a wave and coast on over to Surf's Up. There's 3 big rooms offering the best food, entertainment, and atmosphere in the Bay Area. Surf's Up own fishing boat allows us to serve the finest and freshest seafood in Florida. Oysters are only 10 cents all weekend and on rainy days, and our grouper sandwich is second to none. The newly opened Surfers Club has music from the 50s to the 80s with Prime Time featuring Mike Merritt, formerly with the Coasters and Drifters. So when you're looking for a place to party after some fun in the sun, catch a wave and crash into Surf's Up in Pinellas Park.
I'm Charles Christ, and public education is a deep concern of mine. From grade school through high school, the Pinellas County Public Schools provided me with an education. As a member of the Florida Senate, I can give something back.
On September 30th, vote for Charles Christ, Republican for the Florida Senate, a name you can trust.
USA Davis Cup team charges into the semifinals against Australia Thursday on ESPN. Brad Gilbert and Tim Mayotte face their toughest challenge of the year from a talented Aussie team. The Davis Cup semifinals starting Thursday at midnight Eastern on ESPN.
Sundays, have a swinging good time with AWA Wrestling. You'll feel every bone-crushing blow. Sundays on ESPN.
NASCAR's Holly Farms 400 from the North Wilkesboro Speedway, North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. This portion is being brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. And by Busch Beer, the beer with a taste as smooth as its name. Well, Dick Bergman has been keeping us well updated from the vantage point of a very hot and steamy pit row. Dick, are you holding up okay down there?
I'll tell you what, it's hot down here, Larry. This black asphalt means that pit road is running between 100 and 115 degrees. This is no place to be if the heat is a place that bothers you.
Jeff Bodine is red hot on the racetrack. And at this point in the race where if the driver is going to have any conscious thoughts about the heat and about, geez, how tired I am, particularly with Jeff having seen nobody coming at him in his rearview mirror for quite some time, that's when they creep in right now.
Well, they sure do, because there's nothing going on around the racetrack. There's no real serious racing right now. But look, now, if the race ended right now, here's how the point standings would read. Earnhardt, 37.59. Tim Richmond, 36.41. Darrell Waltrip, 36.31. So Tim Richmond would only be 150. Waltrip on the grill has a piece of paper on the grill.
Seems like a minor point. No, we're not overselling it, because particularly in a day when the temperatures are above 90, humidity more than 80, even the slightest little bit of debris up in the front looks like a towel or something, Benny.
It looks like something pretty big, and there's air needs to go through that grill or through that bottom part of that car to cool the thing down. And if Darrell isn't watching the water temperature gauge closely, it could overheat.
Back to that point situation, Waltrip, by the way, would pick up 33 points on Earnhardt. His difference between himself and Dale would shrink from 159 to 126. Richmond would pick up 18 points from 136 to 118. So if it would end right now, they would all make a little bit of a dent. But Benny, I would suggest as we go back up front and look at Bodine trying to put a laugh on the man who started the day with a great deal of optimism, Tommy Ellis, it's not a big enough dent for the leaders as far as Earnhardt's points lead.
No, as long as Earnhardt's still running around the racetrack, that certainly hurts their chances of gaining that much. Jeff Bodine put in the 10th place car. Tommy Ellis a lap down. Bodine's so impressive this afternoon, just going to the front and staying there. And meanwhile, Richard Petty, Harry can't make any progress on him. And the next car, right in front of Jeff Bodine, is the 71 car of Dave Marcus. About a straightaway in front of Bodine, and he'll put Marcus a lap down. And we all saw how well that Dave Marcus was running earlier on.
Benny, there was an interesting moment as we run the clock for the interval between first and second position. You see 5.6 seconds back to Richard Petty. Interesting moment there a couple laps ago when a couple of old modified and, well, in the case of Tommy Ellis, not a modified driver, but a short track driver, both of whom have a history of being very fiery. Bodine waved to Tommy Ellis as he went by. Tommy moved over, gave Jeff just enough room to get by. There's something you wouldn't have seen 5-6 years ago, I bet, would you?
Well, I think you probably would see it, but this is a different situation. Winston Cup racing is so totally different than the Saturday night racing that Bodine and Tommy Ellis has done so much of, because those races are relatively short. They're 30, 40, 50 laps. These races, 400 laps, and therefore the mental approach to these races is so much different.
You know something else, Benny? Talking about Bodine, who you're looking at right now, and Tommy Ellis, to whom we were making reference of, there are two of the very best examples, I think, in the entire world of racing of maturing drivers. Both of them had a history back 10, 15 years ago of being fiery and a kind of guy you just wanted to be careful to get close to. They're like porcupines, but they have matured so much, both as race drivers and individuals. They are now two of the finest people, really, you'd want to be around in the pits at a Winston Cup race.
They have matured very well. You're right. Jeff Bodine, I have never seen the side of him that so many people talk about there. We see Jeff Bodine on the screen right now. I have never seen the side of him that so many people talk about, but, you know, I'm sure it was there because I've heard it from too many different people. But right now, he is a credit to our sport of stock car racing.
I must have come along at just the right time, because the very first time that I had exchanges with Jeff Bodine on an ESPN broadcast, I think it goes back to like 1980 on the Mild Dirt at Syracuse. And he's just been a prince to me. I never saw what I'd heard and read about from before. It's been that way from the very beginning for me. Darrell Waltrip running still in 4th position. Ricky Rudd in 5th. Remember, we mentioned earlier in the broadcast about how strong, how consistent Rudd has been on the short tracks in 1986, and he's hanging right in there. There's Eddie Birchwell in the number 17 car of Roger Hamby, Kenny Schrader, and Judy Dunleavy's car. They just announced Kenny Schrader, by the way, and Judy Dunleavy this week, that Bob Johnson, who used to crew chief for Ron Bouchard when Ron first came up to Winston Cup Racing, will be on that team for next year. There again, right around the outside of Birchwell.
I think Bob Johnson will be definitely an asset to that automobile, to that team, because he did a super job when Ron Bouchard was driving for Jack Beebe. He's been up in Connecticut all this time. Bob working on some sportsman cars. Seen him a few times back at the racetrack. And I'm sure that Judy Dunleavy and those guys are looking forward to Bob coming down working on their cars.
Quick recap again of the top runners. Guys on the lead lap. Bodine and Petty, of course, 1-2. Harry Kent holds 4th and 3rd. Solid run for Harry. Waltrip 4th. 5th and 6th. Right there is 15. Ricky Rudd, 22. Bobby Allison, they fight for 5th. They're 6th, 5th, and 6th. Ruffin is 7th. Tim Richmond is 8th. And Dave Marcus, to whom Benny alluded just about a minute ago, is 9th.
Looks like the crew's getting ready for it, Jeff Bodine. They're out on pit road. Meanwhile, yes, Jeff Bodine coming down pit road.
Dick Bergman is there. We'll make the call on this pit stop as the leader comes in.
And it's a green flag pit stop, Benny. That means these guys have really got to work together, and they've got to work hard. And they should be able to accomplish it. We have a new right front tire changer, Eddie Dickerson. He is borrowed from Juan L. Wilson's team. He has got his job done before anybody. Bodine out with a very quick pit stop, 14.7. These guys practiced 4 hours this week in Charlotte. They practiced those pit stops to get them right. They watched tapes of other people's pit stops. They watched tapes of their own pit stops. They watched them in slow motion. They said, we're not going to get beat in the pits next weekend.
Richard Petty becomes the race leader. The king is on top. Here he comes, roaring out of turn number 4. The few fans in the stand who are aware of that kind of acknowledge that, and Richard Petty, like days of old, no, not so long ago, 2 years ago, is back on top. Benny, let's see, a 14.7 pit stop. If an 18 or 20-second pit stop is a good one, 14.7, I guess that's pretty good, isn't it?
That is a pretty good pit stop. And the one thing that happens is now Rusty Wallace, who tried so hard to get his lap back, he is in front of Richard Petty. If there's a caution flag that comes out anytime soon, Wallace would be able to get a lap back, be on the lead lap with the leaders.
Now, Bodine was able to stay on the lead lap. Allison comes in. Allison was also on the lead lap, so another green flag stop for Bobby. Bodine right now is about 3/4 of a lap behind the leader, Richard Petty. There is Tim Richmond and Dave Marcus. They have been up there all day long. They're 6th and 7th right now. Marcus has been behind Richmond, but hasn't really been able to challenge him in the last 20-30 minutes. There's Bobby Allison making that pit stop, but it looks like Marcus might be ready to make his move as Allison is out.
No, the car stalled.
Oh.
The car was out of fuel. Evidently, the car was out of fuel. I thought when he went down pit road that the car was going slower than it normally should. Allison cut it too close, ran out of fuel.
So Bobby Allison stretches that pit stop about 5 seconds longer than what he wanted to, but he's back out on the track. Well, one of the aspects of Winston Cup racing is where exactly in the race car weight is added in the car. You have to have an overall total weight, but where it's at is also very important.
Blocks of lead like these are common for Winston Cup competitors to carry in their haulers. The reason that they need them is that NASCAR requires the cars to weigh 3,700 pounds. But the chassis builders make the cars as light as possible. They jam these 50-pound lead weights here into the frame rails so they can properly balance the car and make the suspensions work a little bit better. There's a movement afoot to try to cut down the minimum weight on the cars, which would eventually eliminate the need for these lead blocks.
Right there is the leader, the STP Oil Treatment Special, Richard Petty, the familiar Petty Blue and STP Orange colors. He's on top. We're more than halfway through the Holly Farms 400.
Richard Petty talks about his all-time driving headaches.
Rockingham, 65. Now that was a goodie. Bristol, 74. That was another goodie. Daytona, 82. That was definitely a goodie. I've won over 200 races, but I've had over 700 headaches. So just take it from me. Goodies gets rid of the pain fast, and that's what counts.
Goodies headache powders and extra strength tablets.
Hi, I'm Bob Pitney.
And I'm Joan Pitney.
We're the owners of Anchor Mortgage Corporation. As one of Pinellas County's largest home-owned and operated mortgage bankers, we specialize in FHA, VA, and conventional home loans. We're here to serve your needs, whether it be to purchase, refinance at today's lower rates, or to make an investment.
We have 9 convenient locations throughout the Bay Area.
Give us a call at 327-1088.
Happy house hunting.
Looking from the pit area of Richard Petty, the top 5, Petty, Gant, Waltrip, Rudd, Joe Ruttman. All 5 of them have had solid, steady days. There are no inherited positions there. They've all raced for it. Dave Marcus has been another one of the driving stars, the speed demons here at North Wilkesboro on this afternoon. Richard Petty, who started the season out with a crash in Daytona after a great deal of off-season optimism, has had his best finish at Rockingham, just the 3rd race of this year when he finished 3rd. 3 races ago, he finished 4th at Richmond. Richard Petty having one of his better days.
As we watch Richard Petty come off the 4th corner, followed closely by Bobby Allison. As we mentioned a moment ago, Bobby Allison made a pit stop, and I really believe Bobby was out of fuel, so he is a lap down to Richard Petty right now. And with the fresh tires on his car, he should be able to pass Richard and hopefully get himself back in the lead lap.
You saw on the screen a reference to those 2 top 5 finishes for 1986. He still, of course, leads everybody with 200 career wins. Just to wrap up, by the way, in case you forgot, David Pearson is 2nd on the career win list with 105. Cale Yarborough, as they're putting a lap, Richard is putting a lap on Tommy Ellis. Bobby Allison's tucked right in there. Cale Yarborough is 3rd with 83. Bobby Allison is 4th, speaking about Bobby Allison, with 82, and Darrell Waltrip 5th with 69 career wins.
You see this race going on right now between Tommy Allison, 18, Richard Petty at 43, and Bobby Allison, 22. We went through a moment ago when Jeff Bodine put Tommy Ellis a lap down. But Jeff Bodine made a pit stop. Richard Petty is now the leader, so Tommy Ellis, if he stays in front of Richard Petty, can stay on the lead lap. So this is to put Tommy Ellis a lap down. Meanwhile, Bobby Allison is a lap down. He's trying to get in front of the leader.
Very good, Benny. Allison looks like he's got enough momentum to get around Richard. We think that Bobby is 2 laps down, however. He did have to come in earlier under green flag conditions, so Bobby's got a lot of work cut out for him. Dick Bergman is right now down in Dale Earnhardt's crew, and Benny, we've talked about being surprised that Dale hasn't come in. How about it, Dick?
We're a little surprised that you guys hadn't been in for a pit stop for fuel and to adjust the car, Kurt. What is your situation right now? And over my shoulder, Tim Richmond's crew is getting ready to pit him. They're preparing. Allison's crew, meanwhile, is watching their driver on the speedway.
This racetrack, Benny, is notorious for long green flag segments, and it really scrambles the standings because we've talked many times. Yeah, it's okay that Jeff Bodine pulls off a 14.7-second pit stop. That means how long he would stop, 14.7. He may have taken anywhere from 10 to 20 seconds slowing down to get in and the same amount of time getting out. So that's not the only factor involved, the amount of time you're actually stopped.
That's true. As we follow here a moment ago, Bobby Allison trying to get his lap back on Richard Petty. Go down in turn 1. Bobby gets in the left rear of Richard's car and again touches it. Richard's car goes sideways. Both of them backed off. They saved the car. They're back racing again. This is the live shot we're seeing right now.
You know, I bet you the 2 of those guys have touched twice before, you know?
I imagine. Probably 200 times or 2,000.
Boy, I'll tell you, 2 of the real veterans. 94.7 mile per hour average after 250 laps. The average speed, best of all, at this race was 110 miles an hour. But we've had probably much too many cautions in this race to approach that track record average speed for the 400 laps here at North Wilkesboro.
Meanwhile, Jeff Bodine is putting some distance on Richard Petty. But, you know, this really adds up to be some very unique strategy as far as Dale Inman, the crew, is concerned, as far as Travis Carter and his Skull Bandit crew. There we see Jeff Bodine going by Joe Rudman on the outside. Joe Rudman's Quaker State Buick.
And that is a race for position. Rudman has remained on the lead lap. Watch for Bodine there on the outside. You see Earnhardt ahead, Tim Richmond right ahead. Jeff Bodine going around the outside of Joe Rutman, and that will move Joe back to 6th, and Tim, or make that Jeff, back up to 5th.
But what's going to be so exciting is that when Richard Petty and the other drivers start pitting, are they going to change 2 tires or 4 tires? Are they going to change 2 on the hopes that there will be a caution flag soon so they can go in and change the other tires? Or are they going to take a chance and while they're there change all 4 tires? And how the situation works out may be who ends up winning the race. Jeff Bodine, he can't make it the rest of the way. If he does, his tires will be completely worn out. Meanwhile, from Joe Rudman's car, we're watching, he's behind the Levi Garrett automobile. While we're watching that, Dave Marcus is in the pits. They're jacking up the right side of his car. There we see a shot of him. Dick Bergman is down with the Dave Marcus pit.
And Marcus is doing a very fast pit stop. No major adjustments on the car. They have taken 2 right side tires, and Marcus is gone. That has been the strategy of every team that has pitted under this green flag situation. 2 outside tires, and a load of fuel, and out of here in a big hurry.
258 laps, Benny, are down. You stop from here on in. Richard Petty, of course, continues to lead this race. Probably should be able to go to the distance if you don't use the tires, eh?
Well, that's true, but Dave Marcus changed the right side. He did not stop on that caution flag before, so he's going to have a tremendous amount of laps on his left side. I think that he'll have to stop before it's over and at least change left sides.
The driver who has won more races than any in history here at North Wilkesboro, Richard Petty, 15 times to be exact, is leading this race. Darrell Waltrip is second with 8 wins. Petty may be going after number 16.
All the right parts in all the right places. Napa's putting smiles on American faces.
Napa means auto parts, so dependable they may be the best part of your car. More than 100,000 parts for import and domestic vehicles are available through over 6,500 Napa stores all across the country. Or get Napa quality at garages and service outlets where you see the Napa sign. Wherever you go, Napa's the one.
All the right parts in all the right places. Napa.
For me,
There's just nothing to compare with the right car on the right road on the right day. Great cars are the passion of my life. That's why, after 25 years at the leading edge of automotive publishing, I'm ready to introduce you to the best car magazine I know how to make. I'm David E. Davis, Jr., and my new passion is Automobile Magazine. Automobile Magazine is where the best and the brightest will take you wherever the road goes and sometimes beyond, with more style, more wit, and with no more boring cars. This is a magazine that I've wanted to do all my life, and I hope you have as much fun reading it as I'll have bringing it to you.
Call 1-800-643-3000 to subscribe now, and you'll receive all 12 issues of Automobile Magazine for a full year at less than half the newsstand price. A $30 value for only $14.95. Call 1-800-643-3000 for Automobile Magazine, where the good life gets rolling.
Just when things are easing down, trouble starts up. And when the dust and everything else is settled, you head for the mountains. Push. Head for the beer brewed natural as a mountain stream, for a taste as smooth as its name. Push. Head for Busch Beer. Head for the mountains.
Promotional fee and consideration paid by Quaker State. Great protection for your car or truck. You'll find the same quality on the shelf that top racers use on the track. Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
You can't say that Richard Petty is reliving history because it never really died completely, but he sure is waking it up today.
He sure is. Richard Petty running very, very well. Dave Marcus, meanwhile, is right in front of Richard Petty. He made the pit stop a moment ago, lost a couple of laps. He got one on them back. There we see Neil Bonnet in the pits and the fella inside the car making a serious chassis adjustment to the Neil Bonnet car. He's still turning that bowl, Larry.
Man, I'll tell you, they're drilling that left rear down into the ground, Benny. My Lord. Wow, Neil Bonnet getting some real serious chassis adjustment.
You know, normally when they turn that bolt back there, they just turn it one turn.
Yeah, one turn is a lot.
But he must have turned it 10. Meanwhile, as he comes out of the pits, Richard Petty goes by, and that puts Bonnet probably at least two laps down.
Richard Petty is anticipated coming into the pits very shortly. The crew looks to be ready, and I think Richard is ready. He drops below the white line. Our man Dick Bergman is ready. We're going to watch Richard Petty coming in.
And here comes Petty with that crashed-in front hood. They're going to at least change the right side tires. But interestingly, a moment ago when Joe Ruttman pitted right in front of us, one of the Petty crew members went over and checked Ruttman's left side tires. They do worry about the left sides here, and Petty is going to change 4 tires under the green. This almost certainly is going to cost Petty a lap. A 4-tire change. Most of the others have only done 2. Petty now working on the left side tires. They're still on the jack. The crew says, come on, let's go. And there goes Petty.
Well, a long pit stop, 26 seconds, but will it reap dividends down about lap 380 or 390, Benny?
Well, that's the choice, and I felt like that those guys, somebody would have to change 4 tires. Richard Petty, one of the first to choose, one of the first pits chose to change 4, and that's going to kind of put pressure on everyone else to do something very similar the same way. There's Ricky Rudd leaving the pits. As he leaves, Tim Richmond comes down pit road.
Green flag pit stops. Boy, I'll tell you talk about pressure. Darrell Waltrip talked about the pressure for him winning in a particular track, but these green flag pit stops like Tim Richmond is executing right now are so very critical.
What are they doing? They're jacking up the back of the car. I don't understand. They must have a problem. They've got a problem. They're changing both rear tires. Both rears instead of the right side. What a weird stop that was for Tim Richmond.
It can't be psychological. I mean, I know everybody else up and down pit row is watching, but was that unusual or not?
That
both
sure
rear
was.
tires.
Both rear tires. One of the very few times I've ever seen that happen in a Winston Cup race.
Well, Harry Ginn inherits, we believe, Harry Ginn inherits the lead, and right now he is anticipated coming. Here comes Harry. He was the leader for about a half a lap, maybe a full lap. Harry comes tearing down pit lane, comes screeching to a halt. See our camera right there in the spot, as is Dick Berggren.
We've got a little different strategy here. We've got a left side tire change on Gant's car. He just tossed a bag of ice down his chest, called for a cold drink of water. He's got that. He's got a tank of fuel. Tires are on, and Gant
boy, there's another one of those Bob Hayes quick pit stops. 14.5 seconds, even a little quicker than the pit stop for Jeff Bodine. And Harry Gant, who desperately needs a win here in 1986, is out in good fashion.
But I think that Darrell Waltrip now has led a lap and has picked up 5 bonus points.
All 3 of them now got it done.
All 3 of them have it done. Harry Gant is now the leader of the race. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know where the 5 is. I'm getting a little confused. We're going to have to wait for scoring to do this. But meanwhile, Richard Petty is just zooming around the racetrack and leaving people in his wake with those 4 fresh tires on the car. He is just dominating this racetrack.
Well, it's getting a little confusing. We'll get it all sorted out for you, but we know Petty's among the leaders, Gant is among the leaders, Waltrip is among the leaders, and so is, guess who? Jeff Bodine.
Dawn at the track, where speed and heat work relentlessly to break down motor oil. This is where we put Quaker State motor oil to the ultimate test. This is our laboratory, where we make sure Quaker State measures up to our standards and yours. Because people who care about their cars don't cut corners on quality. Quaker State, the big Q stands for quality.
For over 100 years, hunters could always depend on one brand of ammunition, Winchester. Load up with the legend, Winchester.
This liquid can help keep your engine running cool, prevent corrosion, keep it from boiling over or freezing up. What's in it? Aluguard, a premium quality antifreeze formula approved by all 4 major U.S. car makers. Aluguard, a formula you find in more than 70 brands of antifreeze, but not in Prestone. The label tells you it's car maker approved antifreeze. Antifreeze with Aluguard. Available now.
Introducing Kodacolor VRG, film that captures the color of power.
The most accurate, realistic color in print film is here. New Kodacolor VRG.
The color of light.
Driver Jeff Bodine, crew chief Gary Nelson, car owner Rick Hendrick. They rolled the dice. They took a chance. They didn't come in during a caution flag about 200 laps ago. They thought, we'll stay out and try and lead this race. They had to pit before everybody else under green. Another yellow never came out. Everybody had to pit under a green, and it paid off. Bodine is again the leader at North Wilkesboro.
He is the leader, but Larry, the problem is that his tires are going to be worn out before his competition. He did not choose to stop on lap 79 or 80, whatever that caution flag was. And so right now what's going to happen is that he's going to end up with tires worn out when his competition on the racetrack has better tires.
Harry Gant is in second position. Darrell Waltrip, who just completed a pit stop, probably his last, is third. Richard Petty, who we've been watching from up here in the booth, looks very strong, is fourth, but about 3/4 of a lap behind Bodine. Bodine still there, your leader. Ruttman is fifth, still in the lead lap, and Ricky Rudd sixth. Make that Ruttman 1 lap down. Ruttman just was lapped. There's Ruttman on the screen, a lap down. We're looking back to the interval. The second running Harry Gant. You don't see him on the screen at all yet. Remember, it's a solid green car. Here goes Marcus By. He's had a good day, but he's dropped to the bottom 5 in the top 10. There's Harry Gant with Waltrip right behind him. There is second, third, together on the racetrack, together in the standings.
Darrell Waltrip with fresh right sides. Harry Gant stopped a few laps before Darrell, so Darrell should have a little bit of an advantage right now. He pulls alongside Harry, but Brent Elliott in R72 is on the bottom of the racetrack, blocks Darrell's way. He has to back off, let Harry go. There's a car smoking. That's one of the Miller American cars.
Allison.
Bobby Allison smoking heavily down in turns 1 and 2.
Bobby Allison, who has had his moments here today. at North Wilkesboro, has had a pretty good year on the short tracks. No driver has had top 10 finishes in all 7 of the short track this year, but Allison has had top 10 in 6 of the 7. Again, Waltrip, Bobby continues to smoke, trailing behind, kind of waiting for a lap to see exactly what's going to happen here. He decides to choose the high lane around China and goes ahead and puts a lap on Bobby Allison, who seems to be staggering a bit here.
Bobby's coming down pit road, making a pit stop. This is definitely unscheduled. There we're watching, they've got the board, crew has the board out. They jack up the rear of the car, trying to find out where the oil and smoke is. Dick Berger, the camera's there. I don't know if Dick is or not. Dick is down there. Dick, you see anything?
Yeah, there's a lot of smoke, as you say, coming out of the rear end of the car, Benny. The crew expects this to be a serious problem. They have cleared out their pit lane. This is a very tight pit here at Wilkesboro, and, well, I'll tell you, to get a car off the road so you can service it is very, very tough. They're bringing the jacks now. They're getting ready to pick it up. Definitely, this is a big, bad problem for Bobby Allison. This is going to be a lengthy pit stop. It will cost him many, many laps. The problem is underneath the back end.
This looked like engine, looked like something back in the rear of the drivetrain, like on the transmission or something. Allison, who had a real clean shot at 4th place in points this year, so we've not talked about him in regards to the points, but it's a big setback for him.
It is a big setback. There we see some heavy smoke coming out of the automobile, out of the right side. It looks like they're working on the rear gearing of the car. They're putting grease in the rear gearing. That's what they're doing. So evidently he's ruptured a seal or a gasket or something back there, lost the fluid, and they're replacing it right now. They're replacing the fluid that's in it.
Bobby Allison, the Miller American Buick, sitting on jacks in the infield area. Precious time and precious laps are going by. There is Gannon Waltrip now moving to the high side of Kyle Petty in the Woods Brothers 711 machine. Kyle, he's had a pretty good year on the short tracks. Petty's son, of course, Kyle, who started his racing career with a win on the high banks at Daytona. Harry Gant, 2nd place. Make that Darrell Waltrip 3rd. Now we are getting word that Tim Richmond, in car number 25, may be the 2nd running car. Richmond was able to sneak in and out of the pit, apparently without incident, Benny, and they're saying, no, it's Richmond who was 2nd, but Gant just went by as 3rd, and Waltrip was 4th.
Well, I won't try to keep up with scores because I've been trying to watch the race and not keep up with it. Even if I had, I probably couldn't keep up with it.
It's been tough.
I know Jeff Odine's been running well.
It's been tough because there have been so many green flag laps, and as we mentioned, even though you only show 20 seconds for a stop under a green flag, it really kind of jumbles your on-track position by as much of a minute compared to the rest of the field. But Jeff Odine, as we go inside of Joe Ruttman's car, is still leading.
At Kenyon Dodge, you can buy an 87 Omni America for $57.99 or drive away for $99 a month. Or get 2.4 financing or cash allowances to $1,500 on Dodge cars, trucks, and vans. Only Kenyon Dodge offers you Omni America for $99 a month, 2.4 financing or cash allowance to $1,500, 50,000-mile protection, and no added profit or preparation charge. Don't go shopping without us.
Dianetics by L. Ron Hubbard. Buy your copy at B. Dalton's, Walden Books, or wherever paperbacks are sold. A fresh look at today's problems.
Well, the NASCAR pride of San Antonio, Texas, Eddie Burchwald, loses her right in turn 4, right in front of some of the leaders.
Darrell Waltrip and Richard Petty chose the high side, and if Eddie had Burchwald and just went up to the racetrack a little bit, we would have had a serious accident up there. As we watch the leader, Jeff Odine, in the pits.
4 tires this time, Benny. They've gone all the way around. So our concerns about whether or not Jeff Odine's tires would be as good as his competitors as we get down to the final stages of this race should be over. prior to the yellow flag, there were 6 cars who had worked their way back to the lead lap. So we'll see how everybody gets out of the pits. Looks like Bodine did a pretty good job because there's a big line coming into the pits right now. Bodine may still be leading this race, Benny, when all is said and done after all these pit stops. We'll take a break here while everybody is refeeding and reshoeing themselves for the final 100 laps of today's Holly Farms 400 from North Wilkesboro.
Color Watch solves a color problem.
Here, boy.
Miles.
Nice shot. Bad developing. The pink flamingo's got maroon. The lawn looks terrible. An old spot was always true blue, but this is ridiculous.
Next time, get your pictures developed at any store where you see this Kodak Color Watch seal for great-looking pictures. If you don't see the Color Watch seal at your store, keep on walking.
Sure, your performance tires perform in perfect weather. But it's not a perfect world, is it? Introducing the Goodyear Eagle GT Plus 4, a dramatic advance in tire design that gives you great street performance in all kinds of weather, so you can take those turns, hit those brakes, and run down those highways, even when conditions are less than perfect. Look, you either have Goodyear Eagles, or you need them.
NHL hockey on ESPN, the most exciting action on television. Each week through the Stanley Cup Finals, ESPN's outstanding live coverage brings you the top teams and players. The Edmonton Oilers and the Philadelphia Flyers face off in the season premiere of the NHL's Best, live Thursday night, October 9th at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN.
Back at North Wilkes, still under caution. You know, mirrors in a full-bodied stock cars that have fenders that are about, 10 feet tall, about 20 feet long, are a very valuable commodity. They're the best friends to a lot of race drivers, but there are times when I've heard yet those same race drivers say they are their own worst enemies when you're on a racetrack. Well, we looked at them.
Many people are uncomfortable about changing lanes on superhighways. They take a look in the side mirror over here, and they might look at the upper mirror, but there's a blind spot over on the left side, and they don't exactly know when somebody's in the left rear corner of their automobile. They're a little uncomfortable about who might be back there. On the right side, there's also a blind spot. And for sure, some of the new mirrors have helped a lot to help eliminate that. There's still a blind spot over there. Well, if you're uncomfortable about changing lanes on a superhighway, imagine what 400 laps at North Wilkesboro Motor Speedway would be like. 800 times during the race, each driver has to come down as he enters the corner. He has to come back out again as he comes off the corner. And there's no side mirrors at all. Sometimes things work out okay, but a lot of times it doesn't work out that way. Somebody can be there. So how do the competitors know that it's safe to move up, come out to the wall, or go down when they enter the turns? Be sure that there's nobody there.
It takes a lot of experience, really, and I think everyone makes mistakes at it some time or another, but you just sort of move over as if it's your track. If you can't see them, it probably is your track.
It's all your senses, minus your sight, but most drivers have a tremendous amount of peripheral vision, and even though you're looking here, I can see way back over here, and what I can't see, I can feel. So it's all of your senses, plus that other one that I was talking about, that sixth sense that you just remember where he was.
A lot in the field of experience in racing, you know, you got a feel for when somebody's under you, and a lot of times you don't know they're there, but still, if you've been racing with somebody for laps, or you see them come up on you, or they're racing behind you trying to get by, you know they're there somewhere. If they're not in that mirror, they're up under you, and you know, you be pretty cautious about just moving down or up.
We usually look at ESPN and see it on camera and say, wow, boy, we're running close.
Back under green, and unlike last week when a pit stop during a late yellow flag probably cost Jeff Bodine the race, no such action today. He comes out on top, and boy, he is breathing fire, Benny. I could tell when he took the green flag.
Well, he is, and he had such an advantage when he when the caution fell, he was the leader, and by such a margin that all of his competitors had to wait a lap to go into the pits, which gave him the lead on the exchange of pit stops. Meanwhile, Terry Labonte in the Piedmont Oldsmobile right behind Bodine. He's trying to get a lap back, and Bill Elliott, the third place car, he's a lap down. He's trying to get a lap back.
Let's restack this for you. The first 5 are on the lead lap. Bodine, Gant second, the green Skoll car, of course. Darrell Waltrip third, Richard Petty fourth, and Rusty Wallace has somehow wrestled his lead back, or wrestled his lead lap back. And Rusty Wallace in the All-Ugar car is fifth. 1 lap down in sixth is Rutland. Rudd is seventh. Richmond is 8th, and Dave Marcus is 9th. There is second place, Harry Gant.
Jim Richmond has a problem with his car. He's not able to get through the corners at all. He's drifted back as we watch Labonte again hound Bodine off the corner. Not able to do anything with him. Joe Ruttman trying to get underneath the Bill Elliott car. That's Joe Ruttman in the green, number 26.
Racing is good here as always in the final 100 laps at North Wilkesboro. We go inside of Joe Ruttman's machine as we see the Milling Ford Coors sponsored number 9 of Bill Elliott. The scourge of the super speedways of 1985.
Looks like Bill's car is getting a little loose as he gets off the corners. Now that time he held the rear end in check pretty well.
Joe Ruttman in the Quaker State Buick. Kenny Bernstein, the drag racer who's had such a good year each of the last 2 seasons, turns his attention, or part of his attention, to Winston Cup racing this year. You can see Joe's North Wilkesboro record there on the screen, and Joe's had a pretty good day. He is like the leader of the second echelon. Right now, he's the best of all the cars, who are 1 lap down to the leader, Jeff Bodine, who is just in front of this pack, by the way. Bodine is finding the sled pretty tough going right now. There you see Labonte moving underneath Jeff.
Terry Labonte trying to get a lap back, goes inside Jeff Bodine, can't do anything with it. As we watch Jeff Bodine and Terry Labonte go down the back straightaway, Bobby Allison, the Bill American Buick, makes yet another pit stop. Looks like he's going to pull it behind the wall this time as Terry Labonte once again tries to get underneath Jeff Bodine, exiting turn 4, unable to do so.
As we look at Bobby Allison disappointingly and dejectedly sitting silently in the pit, we remind you Labonte is 2 laps down. It looks like there's a chance that if Bobby Allison's day isn't over, it's going to have a real big interruption in the middle of the pit.
It looks like it's pretty terminal because they left the window man down like there was no hurry. Terry Labonte on some newfound strength there someplace.
Terry Labonte, who first graced the winner's circle of a Winston Cup race in 1980. He was the only new winner of that year. And by the way, speaking of new winners, 1986 has turned out 3 new winners. That's the most, tied to the most in recent history with 1981. 1986's new winners have been Kyle Petty, Rusty Wallace, and Bobby Hillin Jr. Dick Burkett is ready for our next update from down pit lane. Dick?
And with the crew chief of the leading car, Gary Nelson. What are you 2 guys saying to each other, you and Jeff? How will you run your last 100 laps, Gary?
Well, we definitely want to run them up front. We're going to watch, see if anybody comes up to challenge us, see how strong they are. If we can hold them up, we definitely will try. But that's as hard as we want to run a car. We don't want to overwork it needlessly.
You guys have been here so many times this year, in the lead in the closing laps, only to lose it. What are your emotions at this time? Is this going to be the one you're going to win?
I'll tell you, we've lost enough of them in the late stages, especially this year, that you kind of get used to it, and you just remember it's not over until it's over.
And they've got a lot to be worried about, too, because the boss is here right now. Rick Hendrick is in this pit, and he's watching everything that's going on.
Well, I tell you, he better look over his shoulder, Dick Bergen, because car 11, Darrell Waltrip, is coming. He's gotten by Harry Gant. He's passed all the lap cars except Terry Labonte, and he's only about 6 car lengths behind there. He's in the screen right now. That's Darrell Waltrip, second place car, and gated on Bodine right now.
Darrell Waltrip won both North Wilkes races in 1982. He won both in 1983. He won the Holly Farms 400. This race in 1984, he was shut out in 1985 when his teammate, Neil Bonnet, shared wins with Harry Gant. Darrell Waltrip told you at the top of the show, the pressure of winning the points championship is nothing like the pressure of a Junior Johnson car expected to win here at North Wilkesboro. Junior's place is just down the road, down around the holler a little bit. And all the fans, they all come out of the hills wearing those overalls, shoeless, chewing on straws to watch Junior's cars win as they have since, well, 1949.
Darrell, if he gets 8 alongside Labonte, going in turn 1, Terry realizes he's a lap car, kind of gives Darrell the racetrack. Darrell's got by him, and there's nothing between he and Jeff Bodine.
Now we will see what we will see. 322 laps this time by. If Waltrip is faster than Bodine, it is unreasonable to assume that Bodine can hold him off for 78 laps. Then again, you never know.
Once the tires get some temperature to them, Bodine has been able to go on out front and show some strength, but I don't think he's had anyone to contend with like he's got right now, and that's Darrell Waltrip. Meanwhile, Richard Petty has passed Harry Gant. He's in 3rd spot right now, and Harry Gant Skoll batted his 4th.
Darrell Waltrip has had the most top 5 finishes in 1986 of everybody, even Dale Earnhardt. 18 times in 24 races, Darrell Waltrip has finished in the top 5, and right now he's setting his sights on Jeff Bodine. The computers on board inside the helmets of both Bodine and Waltrip are beginning to grind right now. Whatever either one of them has left, you're going to see it in the next 10, 15, certainly the most 20 laps. There are 5 cars still on the late lap, but right now it's a race between these two, basically white cars, one with yellow trim, one with Budweiser red trim, Waltrip. Waltrip looks like he's the hotter setup, Eddie.
Waltrip looks like he has by far the better car right now. As we watch those two go down the front straightaway, the 90 car, the Red Baron Pizza car, Kenny Schrader in the pit stop with no brakes on the right front there. We see the hood up. He stopped a moment ago. He has a brake pump on the right front. But meanwhile, back, Darrell Waltrip, right up on the rear bumper of Jeff Bodine.
Might also add, as they go around the outside of Birchwall, there really isn't that much traffic between Bodine and Waltrip and the slower cars on the track. There's a long ways to go. There's where the points would be if the race ended now. Waltrip would make another big jump and move up to about 120 points behind Earnhardt. Richmond has slipped. He is still on the track, but he's lost at least a lap. He's got handling problems. As Benny mentioned, he's right now running in 8th position. Boy, Bodine is driving his heart out, though, Benny. I'll tell you, if Darrell's going to take this, I think he's going to have to find a place to pick up momentum and go on the high side. I don't really anticipate Jeff making a mistake and staying right down there at the bottom.
Well, he's going to have to wait till the tires get a few more laps on him before he can even try to pass Bodine on the outside. Right now isn't the time. Give it another 25, 30 laps. Then it's the time to try to work the outside. Not right now.
North Wilkesboro has been special wins for a number of people. Neil Bonnet's last career win was here in 1985. Harry Gant's last career win in 1985. We just mentioned the two of them a few moments ago. Richard Petty's last career short track win was here in 1981. Jeff Bodine has led so many races this year, but he's only won 2. So another win would be so very important to this team. And even though Waltrip has won here often because, as usual, he's in the thick of a points battle, another victory would just be 5, 10 more points. It would be so very critical to him, too.
Bodine, as you mentioned, Larry, keeping the car right on the bottom of the racetrack. He's not going to give the groove to Darrell Waltrip. He's not going to give him the inside. He's going to make Darrell go by on the outside if he goes by. But there's lots of room. We saw the graphic just a couple of laps ago. 70 laps to the end. A lot of time. No need to hurry for Darrell Waltrip's benefit.
Jeff Bodine, who easily has been the most prolific leader of laps this year. He led 225 laps at Martinsville last week, 162 at Darlington, 124 at Bristol. He led almost 100 laps at North Wilkesboro here in the spring. Jeff Bodine has a very tall order. The list is long, but then again it's short. It says Cole Bass, the number 11 car for 70 laps.
Hey, to town with us? Ah, go ahead. Think you had a little trouble. Ah, we can take care of it.
A day off is something real special, but so's a good neighbor.
Going into town with us, Pete?
Bush. Head for the beer brewed natural as a mountain stream, for a taste as smooth as its name. Bush. Head for Bush beer.
Head for the mountains.
When I'm flying at real low altitude, the last thing I need is trouble. This Indy Pace car is all stock from the ground up, and AC Delco parts help make it perform. Parts that keep this car running right, and your car too. For the AC Delco retailer nearest you, just give me a call at 1-800-AC-DELCO. Stay ahead of trouble with AC Delco parts.
For over 100 years, hunters could always depend on one brand of ammunition, Winchester. Load up with the legend, Winchester.
The 1985 NHRA Pro Stock Champion. Tires, Goodyear Racing Eagles. The 1986 Street version. Tires, Goodyear Eagles. The 86 SCCA GT1 Champion. Tires, Goodyear Racing Eagles. The 86 Street version. Tires, Goodyear Eagles. The 85 IROC Champion. Tires, Goodyear Racing Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you'll need them.
We are in the peaceful and quiet rolling hills of western North Carolina. Nothing really peaceful right here in North Wilkesboro here today, though. They've been having a real good old-fashioned OK Corral type shootout. And right now, they are toe-to-toe. Center ring, Jeff Bodine, Darrell Waltrip, the heavyweight. Jeff Bodine, one of the contenders for the crown. Bodine has led most of this races. He has led so many races in 1986. And Darrell Waltrip is right now sitting back, and as Richard Petty would say, I guess I've heard Darrell say this too, scratch your head and kind of figure, what am I going to do next?
Well, it looks like that just a few laps ago, Waltrip consistently right on the back bumper of Bodine. Right now, Bodine's able to put a half a car length on Darrell. So it looks as though Darrell's advantage, whatever it was just a few laps ago, has went away.
They put a lap on Chet Phillip, the former Indianapolis car driver who's moved to the south to go stock car racing. And Dick Berggren is with the most stirring and the most dominant personality in this part of the country.
Well, Junior, the race is winding down. Do you have any more in the car, or are you running flat out?
Well, right now, I think Darrell's good now. All he can do, Jeff Bodine's car is really hooked up good. It'd be tough to get around on this racetrack.
Junior says it's going to be tough to pass for sure. Bodine is running well.
Well, one thing for certain, Jeff Bodine has about enough room for zero error. And even at zero error, it might not be enough.
Well, one thing that is happening right now, Darrell Waltrip is going to try it on the outside. You're right. I thought he would wait probably another 25, 30 laps, but he already took a peek on the outside. But meanwhile, while Jeff Bodine is keeping Darrell Waltrip behind him, Richard Petty is not losing any ground. He may have even gained a little bit. He certainly isn't in the picture right now. He's still about a straightaway back, but he's not losing any ground.
0.3 seconds. You know, when you're under a second, particularly on a 5/8 mile racetrack, you might say, well, they're basically tied. Darrell mentioned to us at the very top of the show that there's a great deal more pressure on him to win in this car on this racetrack than maybe the other races on the schedule.
With this being the last short track race, is the pressure really on to win? Must you win this if you were to earn the championship?
Well, a championship aside, this is North Wilkesboro. Mr. Johnson lives 5 miles from here. That's his grandstand back there. If you want to know about pressure, winning a race at Wilkesboro is pressure for me.
Benny, I tell you what, you know, they still boo Darrell Waltrip. I've said before, and I'll say it again emphatically, the time for the booing has passed. I realize as a journalist, you kind of put your head on the chopping block by saying something like that. but nobody is more professional in all of racing in terms of being able to drive a race car, to set up a race car, handle the pressures of the press, the media, the fans. Darrell is really a super ambassador for the sport. And to anybody who is on the outside looking in, there's a great deal of admiration for Darrell. He has a lot of positives to this sport of racing.
Oh, he certainly does. And, you know, Darrell Waltrip, I think you're exactly right. I think he is one of the best ambassadors we have. But, you know, the fans, Darrell Waltrip is the kind of guy that they love to hate.
Yeah, they have a lot of fun with him. That's true.
That's right.
Great. Jeff Bodine, Darrell Waltrip, Richard Petty, incidentally, has moved into third as we continue to watch the two leaders. Harry Gant still in the lead lap in fourth, and Rusty Wallace, as we told you, snuck in and got himself a fifth spot. There is Harry Gant, who is right behind Rusty Wallace on the racetrack, and Wallace, we believe, has moved around Harry Gant. So yes, Rusty Wallace has improved his lot in life by one position, picking up a few more points, and Rusty Wallace is now running fourth. Harry Gant slips to fifth. Ricky Rudd, who is trailing there, is one lap down. He's in seventh, just behind Joe Ruttman, who is in sixth place. Eighth is Dave Marcus. Ninth is Tim Richmond. 2 laps down is Dale Earnhardt and Terry Labonte.
Look at Earnhardt. Look on the outside of Darrell Waltrip, trying to get his lap back. Darrell tried to get inside Bodine. Earnhardt shot up on the outside, and it looks like right now Earnhardt has one of the faster cars on the racetrack.
Well, this is an interesting moment. You can kind of sit back at home in your easy chair and try to figure out, well, whose advantage is this? Is this Bodine's advantage, or is it Waltrip's advantage? And Earnhardt is sticking his nose up there. Earnhardt is 2 laps down, so he can't get back on the lead lap. It really doesn't help out Dale, and kind of bragging rights involved here, but it's an interesting moment in this race.
It is an interesting moment. I think that probably would hurt Darrell Waltrip, but, you know, time will tell.
You know, something to think about. Waltrip is the one who, and Jeff slips a little high, and Waltrip gets away, and whoa, was that close?
Oh, he came down the hill, chopped down the hill. Darrell Waltrip back down the throttle to keep him hitting Bodine.
Whew. I was about to say, Benny, that if Earnhardt can somehow insulate Bodine from Waltrip, helps Dale a little bit because he's in that points battle. He didn't want Waltrip to get those extra 5 points or so for finishing first rather than second. Make this call again, Benny, for another one of those positions where you're on the outside. Whose line is it? Is it Waltrip's or Bodine's?
Well, I think that it probably is there. Bodine should not have probably come down the hill right there, but Dick Bergman did that thing a moment ago with Mirror, so there's no way in the world that Jeff Bodine knew Darrell Waltrip was there. He felt like the racetrack was his. There we see Waltrip following Bodine. And Darrell right now looks to be a little bit faster than Jeff. Tries to get alongside him and going down in turn one. And yes, he gets alongside, and they touch. Bodine gets the car sideways.
Well, we talked about being heavyweight, and this is turning into a real slugfest. Bodine really wants to win. Waltrip really wants to lead the 1986 season with a win. There's one more little piece of drama that's beginning to develop in this race. We'll talk about it and show it to you in just a bit of a time here, but we're going to go back and look at what happened in the very last lap when it looked like Waltrip had gotten underneath Jeff Bodine.
Yes, he is underneath him, and they go down in the corner, and Bodine comes down the hill. Darrell touches him in the left rear, and he gets completely sideways.
Dale Earnhardt with the best view of that. Earnhardt keeps his nose right up to the beginning to move in on Alan Kulwicki. Alan Kulwicki, who has lost a couple of laps, of course, who qualified so well here today. He is the leading rookie man of this race again. Here's the other piece of drama. Benny, this man, Richard Petty, has cut the deficit from 4 seconds down to 2.2. As Bodine and Waltrip fence and foil with each other, Petty's moving in.
Petty's moving in, and he's getting closer and closer. There we see how close he is. He's in the same corner.
1.55 seconds behind was the exact amount. He has got Earnhardt and Labonte between himself and Darrell Waltrip and Jeff Bodine. But what a rocking sensation this grandstand is going to have if the king, Richard Petty, can win a race. Boy, would that be a big moment.
And there's 40 laps to go. Richard needs to get up. Get by Labonte, Richard. Get up there, and let's have us a race for 40 laps.
We're going to look at the interval between the 5 car and the 43 car, but it's getting down so close that it's just breaths. You can't really measure it in time. Well, here it is. Crosses the finish line, and Petty is 1.2 seconds.
So he's gained 3 tenths in that last lap.
Okay, this should be a real exciting race down to the end. Stay with us to the end of the Holly Farms 400 here at North Wilkesboro. This is going to be an old-fashioned shootout, at least among three drivers. One of them is the king.
The greatest sale in Florida is going on right now at Art Palmy's Dodge City in St. Petersburg. Every car, truck, and van will be sold at $100 over actual factory invoice. Plus, get rebates up to $1,500. That means you buy below invoice. Plus, get financing as low as 2.4%. As low as 2.4% at Art Palmy's Dodge City. Pick up the phone and call us at 321-0500.
It's football time in Tennessee every week on the Johnny Major Show. This is John Ward, inviting you to join us for the latest news and action-packed features on Big Orange football. The players, the coaches, the fans, everyone that makes Tennessee football so special. Plus, scouting reports on upcoming opponents. It's all on the Johnny Major Show.
Earlier, the high temperatures of today, 90 plus, the soaring humidity, 80 plus. The track, we hear from the drivers buzzing on the radio, is glass. It is as slippery as it can be. The conditions are extremely precarious. Jeff Bodine on your screen leads the race. Darrell Waltrip is in second. Richard Petty at the very top of your screen is in third. Dale Earnhardt is back. We'll give you a real quick rundown because this could be a very good race to the finish. There are 5 cars in the lead lap. Mentioned Petty third, Rusty Wallace fourth, and Harry Gant fifth. 1 lap down, 6th Joe Ruttman, 7th Ricky Rudd, 8th Dave Marcus, 9th Tim Richmond. 2 laps down, 10, make that 3, Dale Earnhardt in 10th, 11th is Terry Labonte, 12th is Neil Bonnet, and 13th is Tommy Ellis. 3 laps down, and 14th, 7th Kyle Petty, 9, Bill Elliott still out there in 15th position, and 16th is car number 8, Bobby Hillen Jr.
Nothing has changed as far as the Darrell Waltrip and Jeff Bodine battle are still going at it. Darrell trying desperately to find some way by. Bodine desperately trying to keep him back there. Meanwhile, Richard Petty, he's another couple of car lengths closer than he was a few laps ago.
The big moment for Petty comes when he gets close enough to pass Dale Earnhardt. If he can get by him quickly, he's got a shot at the win. What do you think, Dick Berggren?
Well, it's really hard to say right now. I'll tell you, one of the things that I would be concerned about if I was a crew chief right now is the physical condition of my driver. It is so hot out here, Larry, it's just hard to describe how unpleasant and how difficult it really is. Now, your leader, Jeff Bodine, he has a cool suit. On the other hand, running in second position, Darrell Waltrip, he does not. I asked his wife this morning, right before the start of the race, why not? She said because he gave parts of his cool suit to his brother. She thought he might mean it more than Darrell.
Wow, an interesting human interest story. Just reminding you, all the bets are off in terms of pit stops. Everybody out there, everything being equal, is going to go the rest of the distance without a pit stop. Waltrip looks to the inside of Bodine one more time. The last time he tried this, they both were almost taken out. There were 4 drivers who were here this weekend, by the way, who didn't qualify for the race. A quick mention of them. Supporting NASCAR racing, Ron Shepard was a non-qualifier. Ricky Ware Jr., super modified driver who has some late model experience down in Texas, was in Elmo Langley 64 car. He didn't make it. Jonathan Edwards and Ed Bogus was here, and a modified driver from the Bowman Gray Stadium, Lanny Wilkins, tried to qualify. He too was a non-qualifier, and boy, I'll tell you, there is more than a freight train. There are like 3 of them right behind Bodine. He has really got his hands full, man.
He has his hands full, and there's less than 30 laps to go. He's got it down to less than 30 laps. It was 50 just 25 laps ago, right? 20 laps ago. But it just seemed like just a moment ago it was 50 laps. Now he's stayed out there. They whittled the laps away, and now about 25 laps to go. Meanwhile, Darrell Waltrip looks to the inside, can't get by.
The winners of 1986, Tim Richmond has won 6 times. Dale Earnhardt has won 3 times. A raft of people have won twice. Among them are Bodine and Darrell Waltrip on your screen right now. Ricky Rudd has won twice. Bill Elliott has won twice. Richard Petty has not won in 1986 or 1985. Could this be his first win in about 2 years plus? Other single winners, Kyle Petty, Terry Labonte, Shepard has won one, as has Bobby Allison.
Dell's on the outside. He's trying Bodine on the outside. Is Jeff going to get him room? No, he don't. They touch coming off the corner.
Boy, that was more than a touch. That was a right cross that scarred both cars badly.
Yes.
You saw Jeff Bodine's fender also come flying loose. Tempers have got to be flaring inside. It's a very hot day. You can see the damage there.
Look at the bumper on Jeff Bodine's car. The rear bumper about to come off where they made the contact, coming off the second corner.
Dick Berggren told you about how hot it is down there. Both of these guys desperately trying for a win.
Here they get. Bodine comes up the racetrack. We saw the bumper almost come off.
Here's yet another angle. You can see Jeff Bodine sensing Darrell Waltrip up there, seeing him in the rearview mirror that Dick Berggren talked about. And Waltrip says, well, what do I try now? I don't want to get knocked out of this race. The Winston Cup points are important to me, but I want to win here for Junior. This is the last time I perform for him here at home. I guess on a short track, Benny, all's fair in love and war and the battle for first place. But let's just see how fair both of these drivers consider the other one to be. A real old-fashioned slugfest for first place. Consultation going on in the pit of both the contenders.
Dawn at the track, where speed and heat work relentlessly to break down motor oil. This is where we put Quaker State motor oil to the ultimate test. This is our laboratory, where we make sure Quaker State measures up to our standards and yours. Because people who care about their cars don't cut corners on quality. Quaker State, the big Q stands for quality.
Have you driven a Ford? When was the last time you had the kind of car to bring the road alive? Have you driven a Ford? Then you don't know what you're missing. Have you driven a Ford? Driven a Ford? Have you driven a Ford?
Sometimes a simple river crossing isn't so simple. And when you've got him back, it's your turn. Busch. Head for the beer brewed natural as a mountain stream, for a taste as smooth as its name. Busch. Head for Busch beer. Head for the mountains.
Your nearby CarQuest Auto Parts store isn't owned by some big corporation. It's owned by one of your neighbors who really cares about you. As trained, CarQuest qualified counter pros, we're here to make sure you get the right part at the right price. Even the right advice. There's over 2,000 stores like this one across the country with a whole world of parts backed up by the CarQuest coast-to-coast guarantee. CarQuest, America's auto parts giant, because real value and friendly professional help make CarQuest the right place to buy auto parts.
Drama at the summit. The leader, Jeff Bodine. Second running, Darrell Waltrip. The middle of your screen. Third running, Richard Petty. In the blue and orange STP orange, running third. They have touched several times in the last 2 or 3 laps. There was one significant bang just before we went away to conclusion, which has ripped loose the rear bumper of Jeff Bodine's car. Speculation, Benny. Would NASCAR black flag him because there's a danger element there of dragging bumper?
I don't think he will right now, simply because it's too close to the end. It's just too close. If this was early on in the race, yes, they probably would black flag him. But, sir, we see his bumper. The right side almost dragging the ground. Richard Petty slips up in the corner. Earnhardt goes by. But meanwhile, Richard Petty loses valuable time to Darrell Waltrip and the 5 car.
386 laps are completed. We're going to go to a replay to show you Darrell Waltrip going to work on that rear bumper of Jeff Bodine. It's kind of like a prize fighter who's found a weakness on somebody else. Well, it's speculation as Waltrip continues to work on Jeff Bodine in the live action. 387 laps are now complete. 13 laps to go. Petty seemed to be in it a couple laps ago. Now he's about 5 or 6 car lengths back.
Both these cars are very, very close. And Darrell on the outside. outside. He is on the outside. There's no way Bodine can come up and block him this time.
Going uphill into turn number 3. Bodine can go in there just a little harder because we're going uphill. Waltrip gets a good stick on the high side.
He's sticking good. He comes off. He's on the outside. Bodine, there's nothing he can do. Darrell will come down and try to take the bottom away from Bodine.
Off of turn number 2. 388 laps done. Bodine desperately clinging. Waltrip fishtails just a little bit out of turn number 2. Bodine tucks right in behind, but Waltrip has taken over the number 1 spot.
And Bodine, he's going to come back and do a little tapping on Darrell's rear bumper if he possibly can. 10 laps to go from Harold Kinder. That's the signal, Larry. 10 laps to go.
Now the word that we get is that NASCAR is giving serious consideration. Oops, Richmond and Earnhardt there coming together momentarily down the backstretch as we go back up front and watch Waltrip and Bodine. The word is from NASCAR that they are giving serious speculation to black flagging Jeff Bodine. They're watching that rear bumper very carefully. If it drags on the track, is the word that we get, he gets black flag.
Well, it's certainly not dragging on the racetrack right now. And right behind those guys is Tim Richmond and Dale Earnhardt having a race for about 10th or 11th spot, and they are going after it just like it was a win.
Bodine's only chance now, seemingly, is lap traffic, which they will encounter probably before this race over. Dead ahead is the number 9 car of Bill Elliott and the number 17 car of Eddie Birchwald. Waltrip puts about 2 car lengths between himself and Bodine. Darrell Waltrip trying to assess the situation directly in front of him. He'll go to the high side, trying to get around the Kmart car of Eddie Birchwald.
There we see the race for about 10. They touch one more time. That's a race for 9th spot. But it's 4 points. If Earnhardt can get by, it's 4 points. Richmond desperately trying to keep him back there.
Coming down this time to complete lap 394. And Darrell Waltrip disposes quickly of Bill Elliott. It's a subtle move, I know, but as we get Earnhardt to the inside of Richmond. The battle for the Winston Cup may be right there before you, and Dale Earnhardt gets by. Darrell Waltrip has got it covered, Benny. Darrell Waltrip got around Jeff Bodine inside of 10 laps to go. That bumper, by the way, on Bodine's car is dragging lower and lower, and Waltrip is beginning to power away. He got around Bill Elliott about 2 laps ago. It was a very subtle, quiet move, but it was the move which sealed the victory. Had he spent any time at all getting around a lap car, Jeff had a shot.
Yes. Darrell Waltrip, I can't say enough about the move that he made. He followed him for 50, 60 laps, followed Bodine in his tracks, and yet you had the patience to stay there and finally got hooked up on the outside and drove by him.
The ability to be the fastest car on the racetrack during the last 100 laps. Remember all those guys who were out front showing the peacock feathers the first 100 laps? People like Bill Elliott, Tim Richmond. Big key to winning, as it is so often in a NASCAR race, you got to be the quickest in the last 100 laps.
And Darrell Waltrip has proven that today because he has been so strong these last 100 laps. Now he's just pulling away from Jeff Bodine. 2 laps to go. 2 laps to go. White flag for Darrell Waltrip the next time by.
Darrell Waltrip, originally out of Owensboro, Kentucky, now living, of course, in Franklin, Tennessee. The biggest winner in recent years on the NASCAR Winston Cup Trail comes down this time to accept the white flag from Harold Kinder. Darrell Waltrip underneath the acknowledgments of the fans here at North Wilkesboro. He comes out of turn number 2, down the backstretch. Waltrip going into turn number 3 on this 5/8-mile semi-banked oval, looking for his 3rd win of 1986. Darrell Waltrip coming down to collect win number 70, and Jeff Bodine has a 2nd place. So Darrell Waltrip has accomplished, I believe, one of the more important victories in his career. There have been those who could have said, well, here's a lame duck.
Today, Daytona Speed Week culminates with this one. It's the richest stock car race in the world.